Chapter 145. In the underwater tunnel, colorful seaweed, corals, and all kinds of fish swam in front of them. There were even sharks with big mouths and murderous auras. The children couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Even Xiao Yi widened her eyes. The underwater world allowed the children to experience the beauty of nature and the vastness of the ocean. They stopped from time to time and leaned against the glass to look at the various creatures swimming in the water in amazement, so much so that they neglected the people and things around them. Xiao Yi raised his head and looked obsessively at the sea turtle that weighed a few hundred kilograms slowly and clumsily swimming above his head. He couldn't help but follow its pace with his short legs. Bailey Han only turned his head to look at Xia Dong, who was squatting in front of Xiao Guai and tidying her hair. When he turned back again, Xiao Yi, who had been following beside him, had already disappeared. He blamed himself for not taking good care of the children, who were right beside him. However, now was not the time to blame himself. It was more important to find him quickly. He called the others and explained the situation briefly. First, he contacted the broadcasting studio and asked them to help spread the news of the children's disappearance. Then, he decided that Yi Siki and Xia Dong would take care of the children. The three men would split up to look for Xiao Yi's whereabouts and keep in touch with each other. Xia Dong and Yi Siki brought the children to the underwater food pavilion. Their hearts were in a mess and they couldn't calm down at all. Yezi, take care of the children. I'm going to look for Xiao Yi too. Yi Siki grabbed her arm. You're not feeling well right now. Can you do it? It's okay. I can do it. She patted Yi Siki's hand to comfort her. Then she stroked Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao's hair. Babies, Mommy is going to look for Xiao Yi too. You guys stay here with Auntie Siki. Don't wander around, okay? The children nodded in unison. Xia Dong called Mika Kito and the others to ask about the search. The three of them had not found Xiao Yi yet, so Xia Dong asked them where they were. Xia Dong specially went to some places that they had not searched yet. He searched from the jellyfish hall to the sea creature hall, and finally came to the sea creature hall. There was a dolphin performance going on in the performance hall. When Xia Dong walked into the performance area, the viewing platform was already full of people. She searched row by row and kept apologizing to the people. When she found the first row from the last row, the performance had just ended. She hurriedly stood to the side and searched for that small figure in the surging crowd. Suddenly, she saw a short figure walking towards the exit. He was wearing the same clothes as Xiao Yi. She didn't have time to think. She shouted Xiao Yi's name and rushed into the crowd to chase after him. Xiao Yi, she struggled to squeeze through the crowd, but unfortunately, her voice was drowned out by the noise. Her body was squeezed by the crowd. When she looked up again, the child was long gone. Maybe he was blocked by the adults next to him, or maybe he had already left the performance hall. Xia Dong helplessly stopped. When the crowd had dispersed, she held on to her last glimmer of hope and looked around the seats in the performance hall. She imagined that maybe Xiao Yi was sitting somewhere that she couldn't see. Suddenly, her eyes lit up and she ran to the corner of the first row. There was a small figure sitting on the seat. He was focused on the huge pool in front of him. There were two dolphins, one big and one small, swimming lazily in the pool. Several staff members were finishing up the performance. Xiao Yi, when Xia Dong ran in front of him, she was panting heavily. Her heart was thumping wildly. She suddenly hugged him in her arms and said in a trembling voice, Xiao Yi, why are you here? We were worried to death. Bailey Yi's eyes flashed. He leaned against her chest and could hear her heart beating wildly. There was a faint fragrance on her body. Hugging him, it was warm and comfortable. He despised and hated all the women who tried to get close to his daddy. His little hand pushed her shoulder forcefully and a low growl of displeasure came from his throat. Sorry, I was just too happy. Xia Dong quickly let go of him and smiled gently. Wait a moment. I'll inform everyone. She was the first to inform Bailey Han. When she was talking to Mika Kito, Xiao Yi suddenly jumped down from the chair and walked out silently. Brother Shen, please inform Lin Shihao and Siki. I'll take Xiao Yi to Seabed Food Pavilion immediately. She quickly hung up the phone and followed Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi, don't walk so fast. Watch your step. Xia Dong followed closely behind him. Seeing that the steps were very high, she naturally reached out to help him up. Unexpectedly, he suddenly reached out and pushed her away. Although he didn't use much strength, she was still caught off guard and her body swayed along with his force. She grabbed the back of the chair to steady herself. He looked at her coldly. She could clearly see the deep hostility in his clear eyes. Her heart trembled. She wanted to smile, but the corners of her lips couldn't curl up. Perhaps she was too greedy. When she was growing up with Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai, she couldn't help but want to pay attention to Xiao Yi's life. She really should have done what Bailey Han said and died in the car accident so that she wouldn't disturb his life anymore. She couldn't suppress the sadness in her heart. A drop of hot tear fell and landed right in front of Xiao Yi's toes. He lowered his head and stared blankly at the small piece of floor wet with tears. She quickly turned her head and wiped the corners of her eyes. She smiled at him. Xiao Yi, let's go. I'll take you to see your daddy. At this time, the performance hall was already empty. She let him walk in front of her alone and suppressed all her emotions. When they walked out of the performance hall, two men in flowery shirts suddenly rushed towards them. They came in a menacing manner. It was obvious that they weren't kind people. Xia Dong instinctively protected Xiao Yi. She bent down to pick him up from the ground, but a pair of arms suddenly reached out from beside her and snatched Xiao Yi from her arms. The person holding Xiao Yi was a young man in his 20s. He was quite good-looking, but there was a sinister glint in his eyes. He held Bailey Yi's neck with one hand and said coldly, Miss Xia, please come with us. Let the child go. I'll go with you. Xia Dong put her right hand behind her back and secretly dialed a number. However, a man in his 30s with a knife scar on his face standing beside her discovered her. He snatched the phone and threw it to the ground. With a crack, he crushed the screen. Someone looked over curiously. The man with the knife scar roared fiercely, What the F***ck are you looking at? Haven't you seen a couple quarrel before? She felt something pressing against her waist. The knife-scarred man seemed to be holding her waist intimately. He lowered his voice and threatened her, Behave yourself. If you play any more tricks, I'll take this brat's life first. The man with the knife scar dragged her roughly while the young man followed closely behind with Xiao Yi in his arms. They chose a very secluded path and walked out of the aquarium in a few minutes. Bailey Han received a call from Xia Dong and rushed to the performance hall without stopping. When he rushed in, there was no one inside. He frowned and walked out quickly while calling her phone. However, no one picked up. When he reached the entrance of the performance hall, he suddenly heard a crisp ringtone. He looked around and finally fixed his gaze on the floor not far in front of him. A phone with a broken screen was lying on the floor and ringing. It was Xia Dong's phone. Bailey Han's heart suddenly tightened. After thinking for a few seconds, he quickly made a judgment and chased in a certain direction. When Bailey Han reached the parking lot, he saw a Mercedes-Benz passing by the gate. Xia Dong was sitting in the back seat. He immediately jumped into the car, stepped on the accelerator, and chased after the car. When he reached an intersection, he ran into a red light. The sidewalk was crowded with people, so he had to stop. When he stepped on the accelerator again, the Mercedes-Benz had disappeared. Fortunately, he had sent the license plate number to the Dragon Gang and ordered them to quickly track down the identity of the owner of the Mercedes-Benz. Xia Dong and Xiao Yi were taken to an abandoned factory in the suburbs. She was tied up and thrown on the ground. Xiao Yi's hands and feet were also tied. Xia Dong was holding a small earring in her right hand. She had secretly taken it in the car when they were not paying attention. She used the earring to rub the rope and moved her body with difficulty. She stood in front of Xiao Yi and said in a low voice, "Xiao Yi, don't be afraid. I'm here." Her phone was abandoned in front of the performance hall. When Mika Keto found out that she was missing, he would guess that they had met with an accident when he saw the phone. She believed that Brother Shen would definitely come to save her. There was no trace of fear in Xiao Yi's clear eyes. He stared fixedly at Xia Dong, who was standing in front of him, and something in his heart quietly changed. The scar-faced man walked over and pinched her chin. His eyes were shining with anger. "*TCH, I finally caught you. It's not easy to catch you when you're alone." Xia Dong tried to shrink back, but her chin was pinched even harder. It was burning with pain. "Who are you? Why do you want to catch me?" "*TCH, you're still playing dumb. If it weren't for you, my brother wouldn't have died." The scar-faced man suddenly let go of her chin and slapped her face hard. Her head hit the concrete floor heavily. Her head was buzzing. Her face was numb and she could not feel anything. She only felt a burning sensation, as if she had been roasted by a furnace. The taste of blood spread in her mouth, and bright red blood flowed down the corner of her mouth. Half of her face was red and swollen, but she did not feel the pain at all. She calmly stared into the scar-faced man's eyes. "Who is your brother?" The scar-faced man spat and said viciously, "I will let you know why you died. Lao San, give her the newspaper. Come and see." Xinwu 799. Chapter 146. The one called Lao San was the young man in his 20s. His vicious eyes flashed with a cold light like that of a venomous snake. He pulled out a newspaper from somewhere and smashed it hard on Xia Dong's injured face. "Look carefully. The man who died tragically on the street in the newspaper is my brother." Xia Dong tried his best to stretch his neck and finally saw the headline and photo on the newspaper clearly. However, she was sure that she had never seen this man before. "You're mistaken. I don't know him." "Then you might have heard of his name." The scar-faced man suddenly squatted down and pinched her face with 2 fingers. "He's the leader of the Flame Gang. Old K, because of you, he was killed by the gangsters." Old K, this name sounded familiar. A thought flashed through Xia Dong's mind. She scanned the newspaper with difficulty and finally remembered that she had seen this news before. It said that the leader of the Flame Gang died tragically on the street during a fight. However, how could this have anything to do with her? "You remember now?" The scar-faced man laughed sinisterly. "*TCH, I know you have a powerful backer. Call him now and tell him to come alone. Otherwise, I'll let you and that little *TCH die a horrible death." A powerful backer? Was he referring to Brother Shen? Could it be that Brother Shen had a dispute with the local mafia? Questions flashed through Xia Dong's mind. What she needed to do now was to stall for time so that Mika Keto and the rest could rescue them. She pursed her lips. "I don't know who the backer you're referring to is. Why don't you tell me the whole story, why Old K was cut into pieces by the people of the Black Street? Maybe I can think of something." The knife-scarred man dragged a chair over and sat down. He stepped on her arm and grinned viciously. "Don't try to play tricks with me. Otherwise, I'll strangle that little *TCH to death first." He gave third brother a look and he immediately walked over to Xiao Yi. Xia Dong endured the excruciating pain in her arm and propped herself up to protect Xiao Yi. She said sternly, "Don't move. I'm not playing any tricks. I really don't know who your backer is." The scar-faced man sneered. Third brother didn't stop walking. He bent down and stretched out his arm to push Xia Dong over. Then, he grabbed Xiao Yi's collar and lifted him off the ground. As Xiao Yi's tiny body was lifted into the air, Xia Dong's heart almost stopped beating. She screamed in panic, "Don't hurt him. Please, don't hurt him." She struggled to get up from the ground. Her legs were tied up, so she could only jump towards Lao San. She said anxiously, "I beg you, let him go. He can't breathe. Xiao Yi's throat was choked by the collar, and his little face gradually changed color due to the difficulty of breathing. His clear eyes were filled with an uncomfortable mist, and he struggled with all his might, kicking his short legs. Xia Dong's heart ached as she bit third brother's arm. D***M*, how dare you bite me? Third brother grabbed Xiao Yi with one hand and raised his other hand to slap Xia Dong's face. Xia Dong's face swelled even more, and blood flowed down from the corner of her mouth. She gritted her teeth and said coldly, "Let him go. I'll make a call right away." If they had been so obedient, they wouldn't have had to suffer so much. The scar-faced man glanced at third brother. Third brother placed Xiao Yi on the ground. Suddenly, a cold voice pierced through the air. "There's no need to make a call. I'm here." The sound of heavy footsteps clearly beat on Xia Dong's eardrums. She suddenly raised her head and widened her eyes in disbelief. A tall and imposing figure slowly walked in from the door. His face was backlit, so she couldn't see his expression clearly. But he was emitting a domineering and ruthless aura like a king, which made her heart tremble. It was Bailey Han. He had actually found them, and had come to meet them alone. Bailey Han's sharp eyes swept across the battered and exhausted Xiao Yi and Xia Dong, whose cheeks were red and swollen. The murderous look in his eyes suddenly exploded and shot out, but it was quickly hidden behind a calm and indifferent expression. More than 10 hooligans surrounded Bailey Han with knives and other weapons in their hands. They glared at him. Bailey Han didn't take their threats seriously and walked forward fearlessly. He only stopped when the scar-faced man put his hand on Xia Dong's throat and looked at them coldly. "You're Old Mo, Old K's younger brother." Old Mo sneered. "That's right. Young Master Bailey, I didn't expect you to track us here so quickly. It seems like you're this bitch's backer." His fingers gently rubbed Xia Dong's fair neck. Suddenly, he exerted force and she raised her neck in pain. Old Mo smiled evilly. "I didn't expect that Mika Kito's woman would have an affair with Bailey Han. Bitch, don't tell me that the little bastard next to you is also your and Bailey Han's child?" Xia Dong glared at him in anger and pain. She bit her lips but didn't say a word. She and Xiao Yi were in their hands. If they were angered, who knew what they would do? Bailey Han's hand silently moved to his back. Old Mo noticed his movement and grabbed Xiao Yi to block in front of him. He said sternly, "Bailey Han, throw away your weapon. Otherwise, I'll take your son's life first." Bailey Han pulled out a handgun from his back and threw it to the ground. "You guys, search him and see if he has any weapons." Old Mo dragged Xia Dong and took a few steps back. With a bang, he kicked the pistol away and ordered his men to search Xia Dong's body. Bailey Han expressionlessly allowed them to search him. The hooligan took a dagger from his calf and threw it to the ground. They didn't find anything else. He looked at Old Mo indifferently. "Old Mo, you're venting your anger on a woman and a child. You and your brother are indeed from the same womb." Old K had once drugged Xia Dong and sent several subordinates to gang rape her. Of course, Old Mo knew about this matter. When he heard Bailey Han's sarcastic words, he immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. He couldn't help but curse, "Bailey Han, don't King pretend to be a hero for me here." Picking up Beitang Shen's broken shoes and wearing a green hat. "You're just a dirty person." Bailey Han's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He said coldly, "Your brother asked for it. He's lucky that I only let the men of the Black Street stab him once." Old Mo sneered. "Bailey Han, I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. I'm here today to avenge my brother. Old San, take it out." Old San took a paper thing and threw it to Bailey Han. Bailey Han flipped through the thing in his hand and said coldly, "You want 20% of the shares of Shanghao Group. What a big appetite." Old Mo was not easy to deal with. When he decided to take revenge, he had already investigated Xia Dong's interpersonal relationships. He knew that she had the best relationship with 3 men, Mika Kito, Bailey Han, and Bailey Yun. No matter which one of them was her backer, he had prepared a corresponding plan to deal with them. Old Mo grabbed the pen and threw it to Bailey Han. He said fiercely, "Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and sign it, or I'll kill your son and your mistress." He suddenly grabbed Xia Dong's hair. Xia Dong endured the pain and tried hard to move back. She did not make a sound. Bailey Han's heart trembled. Using the act of looking at the contract as an excuse, his left hand quietly touched his belt. There was a thin steel knife deeply embedded in it. Although the blade was shorter than a thumb, it was abnormally sharp and was enough to cut a fatal wound. But he hesitated and did not make a move. There was only one knife. He was confident that he could shoot the knife into the heart of the young man called Old San. He was also confident that he could save Xia Dong from Old Mo at the same time. But he was not confident that he could take them to avoid the siege of more than 10 people and the shooting of guns. He took back his hand and continued to think with the pen. If he signed the contract, Old Mo would definitely not let them go. But if he did not sign it, Xia Dong and Xiao Yi would be in their hands. He was in a dilemma. Old Mo couldn't wait any longer. He grabbed Xia Dong's clothes and tore them apart. With the sound of fabric tearing, her dress was torn from her chest, and her snow-white skin was exposed. Her hands were tied behind her back, and there was no way to cover her exposed breasts. Her face was so hot that it was about to bleed. She bit her lips and stared at Old Mo. "Look at her tender skin. It must taste good when I do it." Old Mo grinned and dragged Xia Dong to the sofa. Bailey Han's voice suddenly sounded, "I've signed it. Come and get it." Old Mo paused and glanced at Xia Dong, whose face was red with blood. He laughed sinisterly. He did not expect that mysterious woman to have some skills. A few days ago, a mysterious woman contacted him and said that she knew that his brother was killed by the backer behind Xia Dong. She also said that Bailey Yi was Xia Dong's illegitimate son. She cared about Bailey Yi very much. If she used Bailey Yi to threaten her, it would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. Old Mo wasn't a fool. Of course, he could tell that the other party wanted to use him to get rid of Xia Dong and Bailey Yi. However, this was also an opportunity for his elder brother, Old K, to take revenge, as well as a chance for him to make a fortune. It was not fun to just kill people. He also wanted to get the compensation that he deserved. "You guys, tie his hands up for me." Old Mo was cunning. Naturally, he would not easily believe Bailey Han. After 2 of his men tied Bailey Han's wrists with ropes, he waved his hand and asked someone to bring the contract over. The 3 big characters were indeed Bailey Han's signature. Old Mo was ecstatic and laughed loudly. After a few laughs, he suddenly stopped and stared at Bailey Han gloomily. "Bailey Han, you killed my brother. I will not let you go easily. But you can rest assured that I will send you to hell for the sake of you transferring 20% of your shares to me. Lao San, bring the things I have prepared for young Master Bailey. Let him and his mistress have a good time and then go to hell." Xia Dong said in a hoarse voice, "Let the child go. He is innocent." Awesome novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 147. Bah. Old Mo spat. "I'm not stupid enough to leave anyone alive." Although Yen Gang had some influence, it was nothing compared to Bailey's family. He was already taking a risk by coming here, so he naturally had to be careful. "Brothers, go. Quickly serve eldest young master." Old Mo took out several bottles of syringes, and a large group of people rushed forward. Some injected him with syringes, while others fed him pills. Xiao Yi and Xia Dong were in Old Mo's hands, so Bailey Han could not resist. He was forced to swallow the pills and coughed incessantly. Old Mo let go of Xia Dong, and Old Mo also let go of Xiao Yi. Old Mo walked to Bailey Han's side and kicked him. "Bailey's eldest young master, you think you're so great? Now you're lying in front of me like a dead dog." Bah. Brothers, let's quickly retreat and set a fire outside the factory. Let this unfortunate pair of lovebirds come from the water and into the fire. While they were simply packing up, Xia Dong moved to Xiao Yi's side. She gently tugged at the corner of Xiao Yi's clothes with her hands behind her back. Xiao Yi's eyes were sharp. He immediately saw that the ropes on Xia Dong's tied wrists were in a mess because of the needles, leaving only a few thin joints. Her wrists were red and abraded, probably caused by pulling the rope too hard. His eyes flashed, and he suddenly crouched down and bit the rope with his teeth. Xia Dong's body stiffened. She tugged at Xiao Yi's clothes to tell him not to worry, but she did not expect him to bite the rope for her. Her heart ached, but more than that, she felt warm. Second brother, where's that kid? The group of people had already walked to the door when third brother suddenly turned around and shouted. Old Mo also became alert and turned around. Because Xia Dong was blocking Xiao Yi's body, he did not see Xiao Yi. He was shocked. That kid couldn't have escaped, right? Second brother, what should we do? Lao San, go in and have a look. Old Mo handed Bailey Han's gun to Lao San, be careful. Thump, thump. The heavy footsteps were getting closer and closer. Xia Dong's heart was beating like a drum. Suddenly, she felt the pressure on her wrist loosen. She quietly moved her wrist without showing any signs of movement. Xiao Yi also straightened her body and slowly moved out from behind her. Third brother, who had been staring at them the whole time, was stunned when third brother suddenly appeared in his line of sight. He raised his voice and said, Second brother, this brat looks very strange. I don't feel at ease leaving him alive. Why don't I get rid of him first? Old Mo certainly wouldn't object to the fact that he would die sooner or later. Third brother walked closer, raised the gun with one hand, and pointed the muzzle at Xiao Yi's forehead. Xia Dong suddenly reached out and pulled Xiao Yi behind her. Third brother's eyes turned cold and he quickly pulled the trigger. Xia Dong hugged Xiao Yi and rolled on the ground to avoid the bullet. At the same time, Bailey Han suddenly stood up from the ground. He forcibly broke the rope on his wrist and kicked third brother's temple heavily. Clang! The gun in third brother's hand fell to the ground. His huge body also fell to the ground. The accident happened in an instant. Old Mo and the group of hooligans were stunned. Old Mo was the first to react and quickly pulled out his gun. Bailey Han's right hand had quickly shot out a throwing knife from his waist. The throwing knife hit Old Mo's forehead. Blood spurted out and he fell down without a sound. Bailey Han strode forward and bent down to pick up the gun on the ground. He aimed at the group of hooligans and fired. In an instant, 3 or 4 of them fell down. The rest of the hooligans were like headless dragons and had long scattered in fear. The fight only lasted for 2 or 3 minutes, but Xia Dong felt that it was as long as a lifetime. She protected Xiao Yi and hid behind the sofa. When the gunshots stopped, she hugged Xiao Yi and covered his eyes and ran out from behind the sofa. Bailey Han, how are you? She saw that Bailey Han was sweating profusely. His face was pale and he was tottering. She knew that the medicine that Old Mo had fed him had taken effect. The pile of red and green pills and medicine was mixed with various hallucinogens and stimulants. There was even an aphrodisiac. Xiao Yi's body stiffened and he reached out to push Xia Dong's hand away. Xia Dong's voice trembled. Xiao Yi, don't look. She was afraid of scaring him with the corpses and rivers of blood in front of him. But he insisted. He wanted to see how Daddy was doing. Xia Dong understood his thoughts. She could only put him down with his back facing the door and let go of his eyes. Bailey Han could not hold on any longer. He forced himself to take off his coat and threw it to Xia Dong, who was barely dressed. He fell to the floor with a plop. His body began to twitch and he said in a hoarse voice, Water, quickly find water, Xiao Yi, stay here. Don't run around. Xia Dong said anxiously as she put on his coat. She glanced around and found an empty mineral water bottle in the corner. She quickly ran over to pick it up and ran out to get tap water. After Bailey Han filled his stomach with water, he vomited violently in the corner. As the pill had stayed in his stomach for a long time, he vomited out white foam. Although he had his stomach pumped, the injection of medicine could not eliminate the effects of the drug. The strong effects of the medicine affected his brain. His body was burning hot, his head was spinning, and his mind was in a mess. Xia Dong anxiously rummaged through his coat pocket, trying to find his phone. Xiao Yi squatted beside him and bit her lip. She took out his phone from his trouser pocket. She hurriedly dialed Mika Kito's number. "Brother Shen, we're in an abandoned factory in the suburbs. I don't know the exact location. Bailey Han has been poisoned and needs a doctor. Brother Shen, this is Bailey Han's phone. You can track his signal." After saying this, she did not hang up. Instead, she put the phone aside and paid attention to Bailey Han's condition. His whole body was convulsing and he was delirious. His face was so red that it looked like it was roasted. But other than waiting, there was nothing she could do. She could only watch him suffer. Her heart throbbed with pain. At this moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. His blood-red eyes stared at her like a ferocious beast. At this moment, her dress was in tatters. Although she was wearing his suit jacket, because his jacket was too big, the cleavage in front of her chest was faintly discernible. He suddenly roared like a lion that had gone berserk. He pounced up from the ground and pressed down on her. Xia Dong was caught off guard. The first thing she did was to protect her abdomen with both hands. She did not have any extra hands to block his attack. His burning hot body pressed against hers forcefully. His body was tense and stiff like a rock, pressing down on her tightly. Xia Dong felt a hard stick-like object hit her leg hard. Her heart immediately panicked. She knew what it was. He was like a mad beast. He used all his strength to separate her legs. That burning weapon collided heavily between her legs. She struggled with all her might and tried her best to avoid it. She fiercely bit his arm and shouted anxiously, "Bailey Han, wake up." Fresh blood flowed down his arm. The sharp pain cleared his mind for a second. He wanted to push her away, but his body's instincts made it impossible for him to resist. He said in a hoarse voice, "Hit, hit. Knock me out." In the next second, the demon in his body gained the upper hand. The thing between his legs started to move again. His heavy breathing and painful cries were transmitted to Mika Kito's ears through the phone. He flew into a rage. He sped up and shouted anxiously, "Bailey Han, stop it right now." Xia Dong was being pressed down. She was in unbearable pain. Other than the sharp pain between her legs, her abdomen was also starting to hurt. She did not have time to think. She had to find something to knock Bailey Han out. As far as her arm could reach, there was nothing she could use. She kept moving her body to block his attacks. However, he was too strong. She could not hold on for much longer. Just as she was about to give up, Xiao Yi, who had been silent all this time, suddenly ran away. Soon, he ran back with a wooden stick and handed it to Xia Dong. Xia Dong closed her eyes. She gritted her teeth and swung the wooden stick at the back of his head. His movements suddenly paused. His pupils constricted. His blood-red eyes stared straight at her. That ferocious look made him look like a malicious spirit that had crawled out of hell. Xia Dong shuddered. She was so scared that her heart almost stopped beating. She thought that she was about to die. However, he suddenly roared and got up from her body. Like a wild bull in the wind, he charged at the stone pillar. With a loud bang, his tall body fell to the ground, and he no longer moved. Xia Dong's heart suddenly tightened. She widened her eyes in shock. She had never expected that he would hit his head and bleed. She was shocked, scared, and touched. She wanted to go forward to check on his condition, but the pain between her legs was burning. The pain in her abdomen also intensified. She trembled and wanted to get up, but she didn't succeed. Xiao Yi glanced at her. She bit her lip and turned to run to Bailey Han's side. Bailey Han's face was covered in blood. He lay motionless on the ground. Xiao Yi panicked. She used her little hand to push his arm. Her tears fell and she cried, "Daddy, Daddy, wake up. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have run around. Daddy, wake up." Xiao Yi was willing to talk. Xia Dong was in pain and surprise. Coupled with fear and sadness, all kinds of complicated emotions mixed together. She couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat. She forced herself to get up from the ground and walked to Bailey Han's side. His face was covered in blood. She trembled as she checked his breathing. Fortunately, although his breathing was weak, at least he was still alive. She immediately saw the part below his abdomen that was almost poking through his pants. She awkwardly averted her gaze. There were so many stimulants and aphrodisiacs. He wouldn't explode, right? Actually, she could help him with it, but her son was beside him. She touched Xiao Yi, who was crying bitterly. She comforted him and herself. "Xiao Yi, don't worry. Your daddy will be fine. He will be fine." Attention, Songshu 566. Chapter 148. Her stomach hurt more and more. She took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. Sitting on the floor, she didn't forget to comfort Xiao Yi softly. The sound of footsteps was chaotic and anxious. Xia Dong looked up at the door and saw Mika Kito's tall figure running over. In the empty factory, he didn't even notice the mess on the floor. In his heart, there was only Xia Dong. He ran over and hugged her tightly in his arms. Xia, don't be afraid. I'll take you home." She had suddenly disappeared in the aquarium. On the phone, when he heard that Bailey Han had been drugged and wanted to humiliate her, he was anxious and angry. He wanted nothing more than to fly to her side immediately. Seeing her in such a sorry state, his heart was about to break. His heart was beating wildly, and even she could feel it. She endured the pain and patted his back gently. She tried to smile. "Brother Shen, where's the doctor? Let the doctor take a look at Bailey Han. He's seriously poisoned. Also, my stomach hurts a little." Mika Kito quickly relaxed his arms a little. Worried that he would press on her stomach, he shouted, "Doctor, doctor." Soon, a doctor and nurse, along with 4 of their men, rushed in with a stretcher. Mika Kito asked the doctor to treat Xia Dong first, but Xia Dong refused. She wanted to see Bailey Han's condition first. Fortunately, the doctor knew about her condition and asked the nurse to give her an injection. Bailey Han's condition was more complicated. The doctor pumped his stomach on the spot, gave him a cardiac stimulant, and bandaged his wound briefly. Then, they were sent to the hospital. Mika Kito first carried Xia Dong into the car and then carried Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi insisted on staying by Bailey Han's side. Xia Dong wrapped a blanket around him and hugged his small body. He didn't resist or struggle. He let her hug him as he stared blankly at the lifeless Bailey Han lying on the stretcher. When they arrived at the hospital, Mika Kito ignored her objections and carried her all the way to the obstetrics and gynecology department. Fortunately, she controlled her emotions well and performed emergency treatment in time. The child was not in danger. Bailey Han was pushed to the emergency room. The doctor said that not only did he have drug poisoning, but he also had a serious skull injury. Xia Dong couldn't help but think of the scene when he crashed into the stone pillar. The clear sound of the stone hitting his head kept echoing in her ears. His bloodied face was still in front of her. Her heart ached. She grabbed Mika Kito's arm and asked in a trembling voice, "Brother Shen, will he die?" "No, he won't die." Mika Kito felt his heart ache when he saw her like this. Why wasn't he the first to find her? Why wasn't he the one who protected her when she was in danger? Ever since he came to the hospital, little Wingsy seemed to have regained his usual cold expression. He sat on the bench with his back straight and stared at the emergency room door without blinking. Xia, you must be tired. I'll take you back first. Mika Keto gently patted her back and coaxed her gently. It's okay. I'm fine now. She looked at Xiao Yi and said softly, Brother Shen, you should inform Bailey's family. Her face was pale, her hair was messy, her cheeks were swollen, her lips were cracked and stained with blood. She almost had a miscarriage. She didn't look like she was fine at all. His heart ached and his eyes were filled with tenderness. He held her hand and said, Don't worry, I'll take care of it. I'll get Liuxing to take you home first. I'll stay here with Xiao Yi and wait for his family. Xia Dong looked up at the emergency room light and then looked at Xiao Yi, who was sitting upright on the bench. She said, Brother Shen, I want to stay. Can I borrow your phone? I want to tell Yezi that I'm safe. Mika Keto still wanted to persuade her, but she stretched out her hand and placed it in front of him. She looked like she wouldn't give up until she got what she wanted. Brother Shen, don't try to persuade me anymore. Give me the phone. Mika Keto sighed and placed the phone in her hand. Xia Dong called Yi Siki and learned that she had sent the children home and was still at home with Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. Yi Siki shouted over the phone and Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai immediately ran over. They surrounded the phone and called Mommy. She said a few more words to them before ending the call. 10 minutes later, the people from the Bailey family hurried over. Bailey Xiong walked at the front. Old Madame Xiao was leaning on a walking stick and Bai Jinxiu was holding her arm. The two of them walked in the second row anxiously. Bailey Yun looked indifferent as he walked at the back. Mr. Beitang, how is my son? Bailey Xiong looked anxious and didn't bother to exchange pleasantries. Mika Keto stood up. The doctor is giving him first aid. Old Madame Zhao's eyes were red. She picked up Xiao Yi and stroked his head lovingly. What happened? How did Ahan get hurt so badly? Mika Keto said calmly, Xia and Xiao Yi were kidnapped. Mr. Bailey was the first to arrive. He subdued the kidnappers and was injured himself. Old Madame Zhao's expression changed when she heard this. She looked at Xia Dong with some dissatisfaction in her eyes, but she didn't flare up because of Mika Keto. Bai Jinxiu couldn't help but shout at Xia Dong, it's you again. Haven't you hurt Ahan enough? You'll only be satisfied if he dies, won't you? After Bailey Yun came over, his attention was on Xia Dong. Her face was badly injured and she was wearing Bailey Han's coat. He didn't know if she was hurt. He noticed that she had been sitting in the chair and didn't get up even when they came over. He guessed that she must be very tired now, or maybe it was because of her injuries that she couldn't get up to deal with them. His feelings were complicated and his heart ached. When he heard Bai Jinxiu's reprimand, he could not help retorting, Auntie, what you're saying is too unreasonable. Big Bro saved Xia Dong of his own volition. Besides, little Wingzy was also kidnapped. Should Big Bro just watch as little Wingzy gets hurt? Bai Jinxiu was provoked by his words and couldn't help but blurt out, Xiao Yi is also her, enough. Old Madam interrupted her, her cold gaze falling on her. She suddenly quivered and realized that something was wrong. She almost spilled the beans. What's the point of making such a racket in the hospital? Old Madame Xiao glared at Bailey Yun again and glanced at Xia Dong indifferently. There was no lack of warning in her eyes. Xia Dong looked indifferent and seemed to turn a deaf ear to their quarrel. She had already expected this to happen, so she wasn't surprised at all and didn't care. Mika Keto didn't want her to be wronged. She held her hand and said in a deep voice, You'll know the details when Mr. Bailey wakes up. Isn't it too much to blame Xia now? Bai Jinxiu looked indifferent and didn't look ashamed at all. Old Madame Xiao lowered her head and stroked Xiao Yi as if she didn't hear anything. Bailey Han coughed and stood up to smooth things over. Mr. Beitang is right. We were too hasty. Mika Keto snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. They sat in the corridor and waited for more than 10 minutes before the doctor came out of the emergency room. He said that the patient was out of danger, but his condition was a little serious. He still had to do a brain check on the head injury. Other than Bailey Yun, the other 3 members of the Bailey family looked very upset. Old Madame Xiao hurriedly interrupted the doctor, as if she didn't want the doctor to talk about Bailey Han's condition in front of Xia Dong and the others. Xia Dong lowered her eyes. She knew it was time for her to leave. She politely said goodbye and didn't look at Xiao Yi. With Mika Kito's help, she stood up. Mika Kito suddenly bent down and carried her in his arms. Ignoring Bailey Yun's murderous gaze and the other's surprised gazes, he swaggered her into the car. When they arrived at the neighborhood, Mika Kito carried her out of the car and carried her upstairs. If it were any other time, she would have rejected him. But now, she stretched out her arms and wrapped them around his neck. She bit her lower lip and frowned slightly, as if she was suppressing something. Mika Kito's heart skipped a beat. He suspected that she was injured too. When they got home, Yisiki was still at home with the children. She couldn't help but tear up when she saw Xia Dong's injuries. The 2 children were even more anxious. Xiao Guai was so heartbroken that she cried. Xiao Bao was so angry that his teeth itched. He wanted to cut the person who hurt his mother into pieces. Xia Dong comforted the children gently. Mika Kito went into the bathroom to fill the tub with hot water. When he came out, he said to Yisiki, "Siki, can you help Xia clean up?" Xia Dong thought about the injuries on her body and immediately blushed. No, it's okay. I can do it myself." Yisiki pretended to be relaxed. "Why are you so shy? It's not like I haven't seen it before. I even helped you scrub your back when we were in university." Ignoring her objections, he forcibly helped her into the bathroom. Yisiki reached out, but Xia Dong quickly pressed her hand down. "Yezi, I'll take it off myself." She gently took off her jacket, revealing her tattered dress. Yisiki's pupils shrank. She saw a bruise on Xia Dong's arm. After taking off her dress, she saw countless abrasions on her body. Yisiki's eyes welled up with tears. Her nose twitched and she almost cried. "Yezi, you can go out. I can do it myself." Xia Dong awkwardly clamped her legs together. When she was taking off her clothes, she noticed that there was a serious abrasions between her legs. Her attempt to cover up made it even more conspicuous. Yisiki noticed the abrasions between her legs, which made it easy for her to guess what had happened. The tears in Yisiki's eyes finally fell. She bit her lip and didn't say a word. She helped Xia Dong into the bathtub, wetted a towel, and wiped her body. Her movements were as gentle as a feather. Xia Dong knew what she was thinking. She reached out and gently held her hand. She said softly, "Yezi, actually, he didn't hurt me. He took so many stimulants and aphrodisiacs. In order not to hurt me, he would rather bang his head against a pillar." Towards the end, her voice choked up. That moment brought her so much shock that even now, when she thought about it, she was still shaken to the core. "Quick, look." Songshu 566. Chapter 149. Yisiki froze for a moment. She thought that Bailey Han had hurt Xia, but she didn't expect it to be like this. After a long time, she sighed softly and said, Xia, sometimes I can't help but think that Bailey Han actually loves you. If it wasn't love, why would he do so many unbelievable things?" Xia Dong was stunned. Because of her words, her heart was in a mess. It seemed that he really did treat her differently. The soft wet cloth gently brushed against her shoulder, careful not to touch her wound. The gentle touch pulled her back to reality. She rubbed her forehead and said softly, "The person he loves should be Su Yunqian. They are a match made in heaven." Yisiki sneered as if she had heard a joke. "They are a match made in heaven? Of course not. Let me tell you, 2 days ago, old Lin told me something." Bailey Han and Su Yunqian went to his place for a checkup. Su Yunqian went behind Bailey Han's back and wanted old Lin to lie for her. Lie? What lie? Of course she wanted old Lin to say that she was pregnant. Yisiki curled her lips in disdain. For a woman to lie to her fiancé and say that she was pregnant, there can only be one possibility. There must be something going on between them. This woman is starting to get scared and wants to use the child to tie her fiancé down. Xia Dong fell silent. She already knew that there was something going on between Bai Lihan and Su Yunxian. Perhaps she had to take some responsibility for it. Old Lin also said that when he heard that Su Yunxian wasn't pregnant, Bai Lihan's expression turned ugly. Without saying a word, he dragged Su Yunxian away. From the looks of it, the two of them must have quarreled. Yisiki's tone was full of schadenfreude. Su Yunxian even threatened old Lin. You didn't see the look of panic on her face. Xia Dong pursed her lips. Look at how vividly you described it. It's like you've seen it before. I haven't, but old Lin has. Yisiki gently stroked her hair, her tone filled with pride. Xia Dong's lips curved, but she didn't argue with her. To be honest, if Bai Lihan is really interested in you, you should develop a good relationship and give the children a complete family. Yisiki said so much, but this was the main point. A complete family. Xia Dong was stunned. The first thing that came to her mind was the scene of Xiao Yi crying in front of Bai Lihan at the abandoned factory. Her heart suddenly ached, but the scene changed to 5 years ago. She was lying in the delivery room in the hospital. The old lady broke in with her bodyguards and mercilessly snatched the newborn child from the doctor's hands. At the time, the old lady said, according to our agreement, I'm taking the child away. If you try anything funny again, you can expect to collect your aunt and uncle's corpses. Japan was under Brother Shin's influence. Originally, it was impossible for the old lady to leave with the child. However, she used the lives of her aunt and uncle to threaten Xia Dong. In the end, she carried the child and swaggered away. Xia Dong leaned against the bathtub tiredly and said calmly, Yi Zi, first of all, I don't want to get married. I can't even get past the old lady. I know my position very well. I don't want to talk about relationships right now. I just want to take good care of the children. I'm just worried about you. You're a pregnant woman with 2 children. Xiao Guai is even sick. Just thinking about it gives me a headache. Yisiki frowned and poked her forehead. Why don't you want to get married? Why are you so distrustful of relationships? Look at me and old Lin. We've been married for 7 years and we're still doing well. Xia Dong laughed. Oh, you've been married for 7 years. I wish you success in getting through the 7-year itch. I have full confidence in old Lin. Yisiki's face was full of pride. She had always been proud of her husband and trusted him wholeheartedly. All right, my proud Mrs. Lin, my skin is about to fall off because of you. Can you get up now? What Xia Dong didn't say was that the wound on her thigh was stained with water and it hurt even more. Yes, it's fine. Let me help you up. Wait a moment, I'll help you apply medicine. Yisiki took a clean towel and was about to wipe her wound. Xia Dong quickly snatched it from her. Mrs. Lin, I can do it myself. Please leave us alone for a moment. Yisiki rolled her eyes. I've seen your entire body. Why are you still shy? Although she said that, she still put the bathrobe in a convenient place and walked out of the bathroom. Xia Dong wrapped herself in the bathrobe. The fabric rubbed against her wound painfully. She frowned and pretended to be normal as she walked out of the bathroom. Mika Kito took the first aid kit and sat on the sofa to wait for her. Yisiki was nowhere to be seen. Brother Shen, where's Yezi? Xia Dong wiped her wet hair. Mika Kito naturally took the towel from her and gently wiped her wound. She went back first. She said she was going to cook for Lin Shihao and Nyonyo. I'll help you apply medicine later. Xia Dong was speechless. Could she show Brother Shen her wound? That bastard Yezi must have done it on purpose. Yisiki did it on purpose. She spared no effort to matchmake her best friend and quickly get married. Because she was pregnant, she didn't even use a hairdryer after washing her hair. She let it dry naturally. Mika Kito wiped her hair carefully with the towel. When her hair was almost dry, he combed her hair with his slender fingers. His fingers weaved through her hair. Xia Dong lowered her head in embarrassment, revealing half of her fair neck. Under the soft lighting, she looked even more charming. Mika Kito tucked her long hair behind her ear and said gently, "Okay, let's go back to the room now. I'll apply medicine for you." Xia Dong quickly grabbed his hand that was carrying the first aid kit and smiled awkwardly. "It's okay, Brother Shen. I can do it myself." "You can't do it yourself." Before Yi Siki left, he had specifically told her that she had a wound on her back too. He knew she was shy, but he was more worried about the wound on her back getting infected. "Then I won't do it. It's just a small wound." "It's okay." Xia Dong's face was burning. "I'm your older brother. You don't have to worry about so many things." Mika Kito frowned. "Do you want me to carry you or do you want to walk on your own?" Xia Dong pulled a long face. "Brother Shen." Mika Kito was determined. Ignoring her resistance, he bent down and picked her up. Xia Dong sat on her bed while Mika Kito stood beside her bed. His gaze was strong but not lustful. He was as calm and rational as a doctor looking at his patient. "I'll just treat him as a doctor." Xia Dong comforted herself for a long time. In the end, she gritted her teeth and turned her back to him. She slowly pulled open her bathrobe and covered her chest with the blanket. Her snow-white back was covered with bruises and abrasions. Her skin was broken and red, and sticky liquid was flowing out. If it wasn't treated soon, it would get infected. Mika Kito's face was very pale. He took the iodine and tried to disinfect her wound as gently as possible. Although his movements were very gentle, every time the cotton swab touched the wound, it stung. Her body would tremble slightly, and so would his heart. After cleaning the wound on her back, Mika Kito was sweating profusely. His voice was a little low. "Are you hurt anywhere else?" "A little, but I can apply the ointment myself." She wanted to pull up her bathrobe, but he grabbed her wrist. He said softly, "Don't be in a hurry to put it on. The mucus from the wound on your back will stick to the bathrobe. It will be very painful when you take it off. When you sleep tonight, lie on your side. Be careful not to let the blanket touch your wound." "Oh, okay." Xia Dong blushed. She didn't know what to say. He poured out 2 pills and put them on the bedside. Xia, I put some anti-inflammatory medicine on the bedside. Remember to take it later." Okay. Remember to treat the other wounds. I'll make you something to eat." Mika Kito touched her head. His voice was full of tenderness. "What do you want to eat tonight?" "Seafood porridge. Brother Shin's seafood porridge is very delicious." Mika Kito's lips curved into a smile. Xia Dong breathed a sigh of relief when she heard the door close. She got out of bed and locked the door. She took off her bathrobe completely. Her legs were bruised and covered with bruises, especially at the base of her legs, where the skin was scraped. When she disinfected her wound with the iodine, it was so painful that she saw stars. After disinfecting her wound, she applied the special ointment Mika Kito left for her and took the anti-inflammatory medicine. Then, she covered herself with the blanket and lay on her side to rest. Beitang Shen left the room and comforted the children with a few words. Then, he took his phone out and went to the corridor outside. With a cold face, he dialed Jiang Dao's number. "Have you found those who escaped?" "There are 2 more. I'll give you 1 day. I want to see their bodies." "Yes, sir." Mika Kito was busy in the kitchen when he heard the doorbell ring. Through the peephole, he saw Bailey Yun standing at the door, sweating profusely. It was obvious that he was in a hurry. He opened the door and looked at Bailey Yun expressionlessly. "What's the matter, Master Tingrui?" Bailey Yun's pupils shrank. He saw Xiaodong injured at the hospital and was worried about her. He found an excuse to call her, but she did not answer. He was so worried that he could not help but rush over. He did not expect to run into Mika Keto. Bailey Yun smiled. I'm here to see Xia Xia. He moved sideways and wanted to enter the door. Mika Keto moved sideways and blocked his way. He said coldly, Master Tingrui, you don't have to worry about Xia Xia. In the future, please stay away from Xia Xia. Bailey Yun's handsome face was cold. He gritted his teeth and said, Mika Keto, Xia Xia can be with whoever she wants. You have no right to interfere with her business. Mika Keto glanced indifferently. I'm her fiancé. If I don't have the right, who does? Bailey Yun sneered. Fiancé? That's fake. I already know that your engagement is fake. In the end, you're just Xia Xia's friend. What right do you have to stop me from seeing her? Awesome novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 150. Mika Keto's gaze was sinister and sharp. Because I have the ability to do so. Bailey Yun's face turned pale. This sentence directly hit his weak spot. He was only an illegitimate son of the Bailey family. Other than having a nominal position in the Bailey group, he had no ability to compete with him for Xia Xia. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. His slender foxy eyes were filled with anger, humiliation, and hatred. In the end, all the complicated emotions turned into powerlessness. His voice was low and hoarse. Is she badly injured? Mika Keto replied expressionlessly. Not really. I've already applied medicine on her. Of course, I helped her apply it myself. Bailey Yun was furious. He raised his fist and wanted to punch him in the face, but he was caught by the arm. He lowered his voice and said, Bailey Yun, the children are here. I don't want to mess around with you. Mika Keto suddenly flung his arm away and slammed the door shut. Bailey Yun angrily punched the wall. He didn't care that the back of his hand was bleeding. He drove the Lamborghini like the wind. He was full of complicated emotions but had nowhere to vent. In the end, he rushed into Charming Club with a murderous aura. He drank one glass after another to drown his sorrows. Many beauties came forward to hit on him. He shot daggers at them and coldly spat out, "Get lost." The women ran away in tears. Bai Lian's entire body emitted a powerful aura of resentment and anger. No one dared to approach within 3 meters of him. However, there was one person who wasn't afraid of death. He patted his shoulder and lazily said, I say, second young master, what happened today? There are broken hearts all over the floor of my bar. Bailey Yun flung Xiao Tianqing's hand away. His foxy eyes were slightly drunk. Xiao Tianqing, am I a failure as a person? Xiao Tianqing's sloppy smile froze. Oh, you've suffered a blow? Why are you suddenly talking about such a heavy topic? Don't play around with me. I want to hear the truth. Bailey Yun picked up another glass of wine and gulped it down. Xiao Tianqing sat down beside him. You're the object of thousands of women. If this is considered a failure, how can others live? Bailey Yun smiled bitterly. So what if others are chasing after you? She's the only one who doesn't care. Xiao Tianqing knew he was talking about Xiaodong. He rubbed his eyebrows. She is already a member of Mika Keto. I advise you to give up. Bailey Yun drank another glass, and his mind was already in a mess. He laughed out loud. She's not, they're just pretending to be engaged. However, I still don't have the chance. His voice gradually became softer, and there was an indescribable sadness in his hazy, drunken eyes. Who asked me to be so useless? I was destined to be a failure from the moment I was born. His birth was not blessed by his family, and his existence would only bring shame to his family. Yun. Xiao Tianqing put his hand on his shoulder. His expression was serious and serious. If you really love her, try again. Bailey Yun choked back his sobs. What if I fail? If you fail. Xiao Tiansheng had a headache. He had never encountered such a tricky problem. He paused and said, if you fail, maybe you should let go. Bai Lian leaned on the bar counter, trying his best to suppress his strong surging emotions. He originally wanted to be friends with her and let her slowly fall in love with him, but ever since Bai Tangshan existed, his image seemed so small. He was afraid that one day, she would no longer be able to see him. Think about it. Xiao Tianxing sighed and patted him on the shoulder. When Mika Keto knocked on Xia Dong's door with a bowl of fragrant seafood porridge, she was already asleep. Perhaps because she was too tired, she was in a deep sleep. Mika Keto knocked twice, but no one answered. He turned the doorknob, but it was locked from the inside. He had no choice but to let her sleep on an empty stomach. Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai were sitting in the dining room. On the surface, they were eating at Gigai's, but in fact, they were listening to what was going on over there. When he saw Mika Keto coming back with a bowl, Xiao Bao gritted his teeth and said, Uncle Shen, you have to make the person who hurt Mom pay the price. Mika Keto patted his head. I will. Hurry up and eat before it gets cold. Hospital, VIP ward. Bailey Han was lying among a pile of instruments and tubes. His head was wrapped in gauze, and his face was pale. His handsome eyebrows were tightly knitted, and his thin lips were tightly pursed, making him look very fragile. Bai Jinxiu sat by his bed, and old Madame Bai was also sitting by the side with Xiao Yi in her arms. The three of them looked worried. Su Yunxian knocked on the door and walked in. She said anxiously, Grandma, Mommy Bai, how is Han? Old Madame Bai sighed. He's out of danger, but he hasn't woken up yet. Old Madame Bai still didn't know that Su Yunxian was faking her pregnancy, so her attitude towards her was normal. How did Han get injured? Su Yunxian looked distressed. Before old Madame Bai could say anything, Bai Jinxiu snorted coldly. It's all because of that woman, Xia Dong. She and Xiao Yi were kidnapped, and Han got injured in order to save them. Bai Jinxiu's words were full of disgust for Xia Dong, and he didn't even consider that his words would hurt Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi was already feeling guilty. When she heard this, her small body stiffened, and she couldn't help but clench her fists. Old Madame Bai keenly sensed the change in his emotions, and she hugged him tighter. She said in a deep voice, Jinxiu, you can't blame Xia Dong and Xiao Yi for this. If you want to blame someone, blame those vicious kidnappers. How dare they target our Bailey family? Su Yunxian was shocked and angry. She didn't expect that group of idiots would lead Bailey Han to them. She had clearly hinted to them that Mika Keto was Xia Dong's backer. She clenched her fists again and again to suppress the anger in her heart. She revealed a shocked expression. Xiao Yi was kidnapped too. Is Xiao Yi all right? She bent down, wanting to touch Xiao Yi's head. The moment her palm landed on the top of his head, Xiao Yi screamed and hit and kicked her. Old Madame Bai repeatedly comforted her. Don't be agitated, baby Yi. It's okay. Great-grandma is here. Su Yunxian took a few steps back, and her expression was a little ugly. Bai Jinxiu comforted her. Yunxian, don't mind him. Xiao Yi is just frightened. It's okay, Mommy Bai. It's my fault. I know that Xiao Yi will be more agitated when he sees me, but I still can't help but want to care about him. Su Yunxian forced a smile. Bai Jinxiu sighed, and her elegant brows furrowed slightly. Bailey Han, who was lying on the hospital bed, suddenly moved his lips. Old Madame Bai leaned over excitedly, thinking that he was about to wake up. However, she heard him close his eyes and murmur softly, Xia Dong. Xiao Yi. Xia Dong. Su Yunxian's face instantly turned pale. He was unconscious, but he was still thinking about that woman. Old Madame Bai and Bai Jinxiu's expressions also turned ugly. Xia Dong. Xiao Yi. He frowned in pain and repeatedly called out their names. It was as if he was being haunted by a nightmare. His fingers were still agitated, but he suddenly clenched them. Xiao Yi struggled to crawl out of old Madame Bai's arms. He moved his body and crawled to Bailey Han's pillow. He reached out his small hand and stroked his cold cheek. He said softly, "Daddy, I'm Xiao Yi. Daddy, please wake up quickly." Old Madame Bai and the others widened their eyes in disbelief. Xiao Yi spoke. Su Yunxian was the most shocked. She began to panic. If Xiao Yi revealed that she had pushed him down the stairs, not only would Han hate her, but the entire Bailey family would never accept her again. Xiao Yi's whispers were really effective. Bailey Han's murmurs gradually disappeared. His fingers were no longer nervously curled but calmly stretched out. However, his brows were still slightly furrowed, as if he was still worried about something. "Daddy, I'm sorry." Xiao Yi lay next to him, his small body close to him. His small head rubbed against his arm. His eyes were glistening with tears, but he held them back and did not let them fall. Old Madame Bai wiped the corners of her eyes, leaned closer, and gently hugged the father and son. Su Yunxian had been feeling uneasy. Fortunately, after Xiao Yi said those 2 words, he did not open his mouth again. Her heart slowly calmed down. At night, Bailey Han still did not wake up. Old Madame Bai wanted to stay and wait for him to wake up. Bailey Xiong, Bai Jinxiu, and the others persuaded her in every way possible. Su Yunxian insisted on staying to accompany him, but as the rich miss, there were many things that she did not know how to do, so she hired a senior nurse. After sleeping in the hospital for a night, Su Yunxian's body was sore all over. After giving the nurse a few instructions, she drove home to take a shower and change her clothes. When she returned to the hospital, old Madame Bai and Xiao Yi had already arrived. Old Madame Bai said pleasantly, "Yunxian, thank you for your hard work last night." The nurse was very sensible. She told old Madame Bai about how Su Yunxian took care of Bailey Han last night. Su Yunxian smiled faintly. "Grandma, this is what I should do. I just went home to change my clothes and asked the kitchen to make soup for Han. When he wakes up, it will be sent over." Old Madame Bai nodded in satisfaction. "Xiao Yi, good morning." Su Yunxian walked 2 steps away and greeted Xiao Yi with a smile. Xiao Yi stared straight at Bailey Han as if she did not exist. Old Madame Bai said helplessly, "Xiao Yi only said a few words to Han last night. After returning home, he refused to speak again." This explained why he was ignoring her. Su Yunxian knew that Xiao Yi did not tell anyone about her. She was ecstatic. Her eyes moved and she was about to say something when she suddenly heard old Madame Bai's surprised voice. "Han, you're awake." Xiao Yi happily pounced on him and hugged his arm, carefully avoiding his wound. Bailey Han's face was very pale. His lips were pale and his eyes were a little dim. His fingers moved slightly and slowly lifted up to land on Xiao Yi's face. He called out in a hoarse voice, "Xiao Yi, Daddy." Xiao Yi could no longer hold back the tears that she had been holding back for a long time. They fell down and she threw herself into his arms and cried. Welfare, Hongcha 866. Chapter 151. The corners of Bailey Han's lips curled up. There was a smile in his eyes as he said, "It's been a long time since I've heard little Wingsy call me Daddy. Daddy, Daddy." Xiao Yi called him over and over again. Her clear voice echoed in the ward. Old Madame Gu couldn't help but feel sad and wipe her tears. "Grandma." Bailey Han smiled at old Madame Gu. "I want to see Xia Dong." Old Madame Gu froze in the middle of wiping her tears. Su Yunxian stepped forward and forced a smile. "Han, you just woke up and your body is still very weak. Have a good rest." Bailey Han didn't look at her. His eyes were firmly fixed on old Madame Gu and he said again, "Grandma, I want to see Xia Dong." He was indeed still very weak. He was already panting after saying a few words. Old Madame Gu couldn't bear to refuse him when she saw him enduring the pain. She sighed and walked out of the ward. Su Yunxian followed her and said in a low voice, "Grandma, are you really going to ask Xia Dong to come over?" Old Madame Gu was helpless. "Yunxian, you know Ahan's temper. If I don't let him see Xia Dong, he won't cooperate with the treatment. In his current condition, I have to agree." "Grandma, you're right. I didn't think it through." Su Yunxian gritted her teeth and forced a smile. Old Madame Gu patted the back of her hand. "Yunxian, it's been hard on you." "It's okay, Grandma. As long as Han gets better soon, I don't care." After a night of rest and Mika Kito's special wound medicine, Xia Dong's injuries had healed a lot. Some parts of her body had scabbed over and the bruises had faded. Walking out of the bedroom, Mika Kito was wearing an apron and was busy in the kitchen. He was tall and straight, wearing an apron with cartoon dolls printed on it. He looked out of place. She leaned against the wall and chuckled. "You're awake. Does your wound still hurt?" Mika Kito held a spatula and poked his head out of the kitchen to ask her. His eyes were full of love. "It's a lot better." "Brother Shen, why are you cooking again? Just order some takeout." She felt guilty eating the food cooked by the CEO every day. "It's not safe to buy it outside." Mika Kito turned back into the kitchen and turned the fried eggs in the pan. "Let's go outside." The smell of oil and smoke. "Oh, okay." Xia Dong sniffled. It smelled so good. She fell asleep without eating anything last night, so she was really hungry now. After washing up, she woke the two little guys up. The first thing Xiao Guai did when he got out of bed was to lie in front of her. He said with concern, "Mommy, does your wound still hurt?" Xia Dong kissed him on the forehead. "Gigai, don't worry. Mommy's wound doesn't hurt anymore." Xiao Guai blinked and cupped her face with his little hands. He moved his little mouth close to her swollen face and blew gently. "Mommy, I'll blow on it for you. It won't hurt anymore after I blow on it." Xia Dong hugged her daughter's soft little body tightly. "Yes, yes. It doesn't hurt at all. Gigai's blow really works." When he called Xiao Bao rubbed his messy hair with a confused look in his eyes. He stuck his little butt out and rummaged around the pillow for a while before he found an exquisite necklace and handed it to Xia Dong without saying a word. "Xiao Bao, is this for me?" The sleepiness in Xiao Bao's eyes finally disappeared. He nodded heavily and puffed up his little bun face. "Mom, no matter where you go in the future, you have to wear this necklace. This way, even if you go to the ends of the earth, I can find you." He thought about it for most of the night before coming up with this idea. It's so magical. You didn't install a global positioning system in the necklace, did you? Xia Dong smiled and joked. She took the necklace from her son and observed it carefully. It should be platinum. It was low-key and luxurious. The pendant was a green and white cat's eye stone. It looked beautiful and elegant. Almost. This cat's eye stone is hollow. I put a very small tracker in it. Mom, lower your head. I will put it on for you. If there was another person who was not afraid of death and kidnapped his mother, he would be able to find her location in the first place. Xia Dong lowered her head and asked curiously, "Where did you get this necklace?" Xiao Bao chuckled. "I got it from Uncle Shen. Anyway, this was prepared by Uncle Shen and he planned to give it to you, so I modified it a little." His chubby little fingers moved nimbly behind her neck and fastened the necklace. He suddenly leaned over to her injured cheek and kissed it quickly. He turned his face away and looked uncomfortable. "Does it still hurt?" Xia Dong rubbed his hair and smiled. "It was still very painful, but it didn't hurt anymore after you kissed it. So, my precious son, why don't you kiss it again?" "No way." Xiao Bao awkwardly escaped from her arms. His little ears were dyed a light pink. The mother and son came out of the bedroom. Mika Keto was carrying breakfast from the kitchen. He saw the necklace on Xia Dong's neck and smiled. Breakfast is ready. Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai, hurry up and wash up. Okay, the two tender voices answered together. They smiled. It felt good to have Mommy and Uncle Shen. After breakfast, Mika Keto went to the office while Xia Dong stayed at home. She was about to call Bailey Yun to ask about Bailey Han's situation when she suddenly received a call from old madam. She was very happy to hear that Bailey Han had woken up. When she heard that Bailey Han wanted to see her, she was stunned. She hesitated for a moment and said, "Old madam, is it inconvenient?" Old madam's tone wasn't very good. "If Han wasn't in a bad condition right now, I wouldn't let you see him. Since I've decided to let you see him, come over." Xia Dong frowned. Anger rose in her heart. She tried hard to suppress it and said calmly, "I understand. I'll be at the hospital in about an hour." Xia Dong changed into a long-sleeved knee-length skirt to cover the scars on her arms and legs. The scars on her body were easy to cover, but the scars on her face were too obvious. She used a curling iron to curl her hair and used all her strength to push her hair forward, covering her slightly red and swollen cheeks. She sent the two children to Yisiki's place to take care of them and then rushed to the hospital. Su Yunxian was also there. She looked at Xia Dong with an extremely cold gaze. Old madam's face darkened. "Since you're here, go in. You should know what to say and what not to say." Xia Dong didn't want to say anything more. She nodded and pushed open the door of the ward. The sunlight shone in through the window and cast a shadow in the middle of the room. Xia Dong stood quietly in front of Bailey Han's bed. Her heart ached as she looked at his pale face. Bailey Han was also looking at her. Although she tried hard to cover it up, he still saw her injured cheeks. She must also be covered in scars where he couldn't see them. Some of them were even caused by him. She said in a hoarse voice, "I'm sorry. If I hadn't implicated you, you wouldn't have become like this." He closed his eyes and smiled tiredly. "It's not your fault. Come to think of it, he was the one who had implicated her. If he had done a better job back then, the incident with old Imo wouldn't have happened." He waved his hand and she walked closer. He said softly, "Do the injuries on your body still hurt?" He paused for a moment and his face turned slightly pink. Did I hurt the child in your stomach?" Xia Dong knew what he was referring to. Her face heated up and she looked down uncomfortably. "No, it's okay. The child is fine." He was full of guilt and said softly, "I'm sorry. I almost hurt you." Xia Dong's nose twitched and she burst into tears. "You scared me to death. Do you know that you almost killed yourself?" He smiled. "I didn't want to hurt you." If he hadn't sobered up at the last moment, he really didn't dare to imagine what kind of terrible consequences it would have caused. Xia Dong's heart skipped a beat. She bit her lip and tried to control her emotions. "Thank you," there was a gentle smile in his eyes. She tried to say something happy. Xiao Yi spoke. "When you were unconscious, he hugged you and cried very sadly." He chuckled. "I know. If it wasn't for his cries, I might still be unconscious." His face was pale. It was obvious that he was forcing himself to talk to her. She smiled and said, "Mr. Bailey, have a good rest. I'll come and see you another day." Bailey Han suddenly grabbed her wrist. "Call me Bailey Han." Compared to a polite address, he was more willing to hear her call him by his full name when she was flustered and exasperated. It gave him a familiar sense of closeness. She wanted to struggle, but she was afraid that it would affect his wound, so she could only let him hold her. His dark eyes stared at her, containing many things that she couldn't understand. She compromised. "Bailey Han, let go of me." If old madam and Su Yunxian saw this, she wouldn't be able to explain herself. He slowly let go of her. "I'll leave first. Have a good rest." She walked to the door. Before she opened it, his tired voice suddenly came from behind. Xia Dong, did we know each other before? Her outstretched hand froze. With her back facing him, she asked, why do you ask? He was already very tired after talking so much. He took a deep breath and said, when I was unconscious, I had many dreams. In my dreams, there was you and me. We seemed to be very familiar with each other. The dreams were also very real, as if it had happened before. She dug her fingers into her palms. What did you dream of? I don't remember. He actually only remembered one scene. He was carrying her in his arms as they walked through the forest. It was raining heavily, and she was leaning on his chest like a weak kitten. He could even clearly remember how he felt at that time. The joy of finding something he had lost, the worry, and the love that was so thick that it couldn't be dissolved. She closed her eyes and said lightly, no, we didn't know each other before. That was the first time we met at the ERC press conference. He said slowly, I still remember that you approached me several times and said that you needed my help. You even said that you didn't come back to disturb me on purpose. The way you spoke was like an old acquaintance. Come and see, Hongcha 866. Chapter 152. She interrupted him. That was just a way for me to get close to you. I pretended to be an old acquaintance. Didn't you see through it? After a moment of silence, he said, what do you need my help with? He seemed to have always treated her as a liar and had never asked her these questions. Nothing. I just wanted to get an advertisement for Glamour magazine. Didn't I successfully sign an advertisement contract with your company? He shook his head. He didn't believe it. What had happened in the past few months replayed in his mind like a movie. He didn't believe that she got close to him for such a simple purpose. He was even more suspicious of her saying that they didn't know each other in the past. However, he didn't have the energy to confront her now. I'll leave first. Xia Dong didn't want to say anything more. She opened the door and walked out. Old Madame Dowager and Su Yunxian were sitting in the corridor. When they saw her come out, their eyes fell on her at the same time. Xia Dong nodded at them. He's tired. I'll leave first. She didn't wait for them to answer and left directly. She was also very tired and didn't want to pretend to be polite to them. Old Madame Dowager and Su Yunxian had different expressions. After a moment of silence, Old Madame Dowager said, Yunxian, you've been tired all night. Go back and rest first. No, Grandma. I'm fine. I want to stay and take care of Han. Even if you can bear it, the child in your belly can't. Listen to me and go back to rest. Old Madame Dowager's unintentional words made Su Yunxian's body stiffen and her face turn pale. What's wrong? Did something happen? Old Madame Dowager looked concerned. Su Yunxian covered her mouth and sobbed softly. Grandma, I'm sorry. The child was accidentally lost. Han finally decided to keep the child, but I didn't protect him. I didn't dare to tell you because I was afraid that you'd be angry with me. Han has already ignored me because of this. If you continue to ignore me, then she choked with sobs. The old madam did not expect this to happen. She patted her shoulder with heartache. Don't be sad. You're still young. You can have another child in the future. Although the old madam was heartbroken, she was secretly relieved. Xiao Yi's condition was gradually improving, and she was very sensitive to Yunxian. If she knew that Yunxian had a child, she might be agitated. Now that the child was gone, it could be considered a good thing. Su Yunxian wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief. Grandma, can I ask you for a favor? If there's anything, just say it. I want to ask you not to tell Mommy Bai and the others about my pregnancy and the loss of my child. Also, don't mention this in front of Han. I don't want him to hate me every time he thinks about this. Su Yunxian's pregnancy, old madam did not tell the rest of the family, mainly because she had not decided whether to keep the child or not. If the whole family knew about it, it would be difficult for her in the future. Okay, I won't say anything. Han is a stubborn person. It wasn't easy for him to decide to keep the child, but now the child is gone. It's understandable that he's angry. You should understand him, Grandma, I know. I'll wait for him to forgive me. Yunxian, you'd better go back and rest first. You just had a miscarriage. You need to take care of your body. But, Han, it's not urgent. Go back quickly. Su Yunxian hesitated for a long time. Okay, Grandma. I'll go back first. I'll ask the servants to bring the soup in the kitchen. Okay, go ahead. In the brain surgeon's office. Bailey Xiong said, Doctor, what's the result of my son's head examination? The doctor did a head MRI and head CT scan for Bailey Han. He took the examination report and said, Mr. Bailey, young master's brain injury this time is not serious except for a slight concussion. However, we found a low-density shadow in his left parietal lobe with a vague boundary. There is a substantial shadow in the rest of his brain. It should be an old injury. Bailey Xiong said nervously, Yes, my son had a car accident 5 years ago and his brain was seriously injured. What do you mean by shadow? Could it be a tumor? It's not a tumor. It may be a remnant of the previous injury. Bailey Xiong was shocked and thought of something. It was very likely that the shadow was that thing. Mr. Bailey, young master still needs a detailed examination. After the location of the foreign body is clear, we will use the treatment method of surgery to treat it. Doctor, will the foreign body in my son's brain affect him? For the time being, it doesn't affect young master, but it's hard to say because the foreign body is likely to oppress his nerves and have other effects. Bailey Xiong was silent for a while and said, I need to discuss it with my family before making a decision. The detailed examination results came out. The shadow in Bailey Han's brain was a remnant of the car accident 5 years ago. After the family's discussion, they decided not to perform surgery and let him stay as he was. However, in the eyes of the doctor, it was like a time bomb that could explode at any time and kill him. Since the family did not agree to the surgery, there was nothing they could do. During Bailey Han's hospitalization, Su Yunxian went to the hospital 3 times a day. Unfortunately, he did not take her seriously at all and did not even want to look at her. He was in good health and was discharged from the hospital after 2 days. Except for the pain in his head, his other bodily functions had returned to normal. Xia Dong's injuries were basically healed. She was holding Xiao Guai and teaching her arithmetic when her cell phone rang. It was Bailey Han. Hello, Mr. Bailey. How are you feeling? Bailey Han's deep voice came from the other side. Call me Bailey Han. Oh. She was a little embarrassed. Bailey Han, are you feeling better? Much better. I'll be discharged today. She smiled. Then I'm relieved. He seemed to be in a good mood and chuckled. Are you worried about me? She couldn't help but grip her cell phone tightly and coughed. You were injured because of me. Of course I'm worried about you. He paused for a moment and said in a serious tone, Then how do you plan to repay me for saving your life? She was silent for a moment. Are you really Bailey Han? Was he really not Bailey Yun in disguise? What kind of person am I in your heart? Cold on the outside but warm on the inside. He smiled faintly. He was not warm to everyone. Xia Dong hesitated for a moment and asked, Well, how is Xiao Yi? That day, he also suffered a lot. Even an adult like her was traumatized by the sight of blood, let alone a child. He rubbed his eyebrows. I heard from Grandma that he had a nightmare on the first night. He's fine now. What worries me is that he still doesn't want to talk. She bit her lip and comforted him. Don't worry. Xiao Yi will get better slowly. He just needs some time to overcome his psychological barrier. He was silent for so long that she thought he had hung up the phone. He suddenly said, On the day you were kidnapped, I suddenly understood what you said. For Xiao Yi and you. I'm willing to give up my life. Her body stiffened and she had difficulty breathing. Her blood flow was not smooth. Did she hear wrongly? He said that he was willing to give up his life for her and Xiao Yi. She held her cell phone and didn't dare to speak. She tried to convince herself that she was dreaming. He smiled bitterly. I only dared to admit my feelings for you when I was delirious. Even if you lied to me, I still fell in love with you like a fool. No, don't say any more. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything. Xia Dong hung up the phone in a panic. She hugged Xiao Guai in a daze. Her heart was beating very fast in her chest. She couldn't help but imagine the scene of him hitting the pillar in the wind. Mommy, what's wrong? Xiao Guai shook Xia Dong's arm. Her little face was filled with worry. Mommy is fine. Gigai, let's continue. Xia Dong tried hard to shake off those wild thoughts. She picked up a book and continued to teach her daughter arithmetic. Bailey Han held his cell phone in silence. He closed his eyes and rubbed his forehead. He must be crazy. He knew it was impossible between them, but he still wanted to tell her his feelings for her. She was Mika Kito's woman. She was Mika Kito's woman. He reminded himself twice. He wanted to throw her to the back of his mind, but her figure became clearer. There was a soft knock on the door. He said, "Come in." Lin Yi walked in. Mr. Bailey, are you okay? Bailey Han extended his hand and gestured for him to sit. I'm fine now. Dr. Lin, I invited you here to ask you something. Xiao Yi clearly spoke when I was injured, but now he's not saying anything. What's going on? Lin Yi furrowed his eyebrows. Can you be more specific? What happened? Bailey Han crossed his arms and told him everything that happened that day in detail. Of course, he didn't mention Xia Dong's name and that old Amo came for revenge. After that, he told her about how little Wingzi had cried while he was unconscious. Lin Yi thought about it seriously for a few seconds before saying, I think little Wingzi's autism is almost fully recovered. The reason why he doesn't want to talk now is probably because he feels guilty and doesn't know how to communicate with you. You also said that little Wingzi felt very guilty. He felt that he was the cause of this kidnapping and your injury. Then what should we do? Communicate with him patiently. You have to send a message that you love him very much. The kidnapping has nothing to do with him. It's not his fault that you're injured. Use positive emotions to influence him and let him walk out of his guilt. Also, divert his attention. Don't let him think about it all the time. I understand. Thank you, Dr. Lin. You're welcome. Let me know if you need me. Attention, Songshu 566. Chapter 153. When he sent Lin Yi downstairs, Bailey Han saw Xiao Yi open the door and poke his head out. His eyes flashed as soon as he saw them. He quickly returned to his room and closed the door with a bang. How could he get rid of his psychological barrier? Bailey Han rubbed his eyebrows and thought. Bailey Han told the whole family about Lin Yi's suggestion. They resolutely carried out a series of measures. They never mentioned the kidnapping and took extra care of Xiao Yi. Bailey Han didn't go to the company either. He accompanied him every day. Lu Zihao reported to him on the phone and important documents were sent home for his approval. He and little Wingzi bathed Lil P together. Because the young master had no experience in bathing pets, Lil P became uncomfortable. Lil P shook its fur angrily, causing the two of them to be drenched in water. With their faces full of water droplets, they went upstairs to change their clothes with the same serious expression. The servants who were hiding and peeking all covered their mouths and laughed wildly. They sat cross-legged on the floor and played video games or go together. Bailey Han also taught Xiao Yi how to swim, how to shoot darts, and took him to ride the roller coaster. In short, he would bring little Wingzi along to experience any games that children played. At night, when he was lying in bed, he would take out books such as How to Play with Children and How to Be a Good Father from under his pillow and study them. the results of playing with his son were obvious. His son no longer avoided his gaze and would smile brightly at him. He was no longer like a little old man with a straight face all day. Unfortunately, his son still refused to speak. He had the patience to cure his son, but Lu Zihao couldn't take it anymore. Lu Zihao was about to cry. It had been a week, a whole week. As the CEO of Xinghao Group, he didn't go to the company but stayed at home with his son. There were a lot of rumors in the company and a lot of problems had piled up in various departments. CEO, please, hurry back to the company. Lu Zihao almost hugged Bailey Han's leg and cried. I know, I'll go to work tomorrow. Bailey Han knew that it wasn't easy for Lu Zihao to withstand the pressure from the board of directors for so long. Bailey Han thought for a while and called Xia Dong. Xia Dong, I have to go back to work tomorrow. Can you bring Xiao Bao over to visit Xiao Yi? Is it inconvenient? Madam doesn't seem to want us to contact with Xiao Yi. Besides, he's almost recovered. Xia Dong's head hurt. She had a headache. She wanted to see Xiao Yi, but Madam hated her because of Bailey Han's injury. Would she still allow her to bring Xiao Bao to visit Xiao Yi? Moreover, she didn't dare to see Xiao Yi. Han didn't want to see him again. I'll take care of Grandma. It's precisely because little Wingzy has already made great progress that I don't want to fail at the last step. With little treasure here, I'm very relieved. His voice was calm and rational, without a trace of selfishness, causing her to gradually lower her guard. Okay then, if you can convince Madam. Wait for my news. This time, it wasn't difficult to convince Madam. She only had one condition. Han, you've neglected Yunxian for so long. No matter how angry you are, it's time to let it go. If you want me to agree, that's fine. From today onwards, you and Yunxian will resume contact. You're not allowed to refuse her calls, and you're not allowed to shut her out. Okay, no problem. It was just resuming contact. This was simple. Madam wasn't easy to deal with. Call her right now and invite her over for dinner tonight. Okay. Bailey Han's expression was indifferent. After dialing the number, he calmly said the invitation. Su Yunxian was naturally ecstatic. She thought that Bailey Han was the first to extend an olive branch, which meant that he had forgiven her. Of course, she happily accepted the invitation. Grandma, I've already made the call. When Xia Dong comes over tomorrow, don't give her a hard time. Am I that kind of person? Madam was angry and unconvinced. The banquet seemed normal, but in fact, there was an undercurrent surging. Bailey Han ate quietly and elegantly. Occasionally, he would pick up food for Xiao Yi and ignore the others. Madam, who was sitting opposite him, poked his leg with her walking stick. He received her threatening gaze and picked up Su Yunxian's favorite food. He put it on her plate and smiled. Yunxian, this is your favorite osmanthus fish. Try it. Thank you. Su Yunxian smiled faintly and used her chopsticks to pick up his favorite pork ribs. Before her arm reached his plate, Xiao Yi suddenly slammed her chopsticks on the table. She was shocked and her chopsticks shook. The pork ribs flew into Bailey Han's arms. Everyone's gaze shifted to them. The servant hurried forward and wiped Bailey Han's face. This. Han, I'm sorry. Her cheeks were burning. She had never lost her composure in front of so many people. It's okay. I'll go upstairs and change. Bailey Han pushed his chair away and stood up. Xiao Yi acted as if nothing had happened. She picked up her chopsticks and ate quietly. Su Yunxian gritted her teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. That damn brat, he must be doing it on purpose. How did old Mo and his group of trash kill him last time? He was like a bomb, constantly reminding her that her weakness was in his hands, and he could destroy her at any time. What did she have to do to shut him up forever? The next day, Xia Dong brought Xiao Bao to Bailey's old residence. She had already prepared herself for people to roll their eyes at her, but she didn't expect the butler to be so nice to her. Xiao Bao went upstairs and was not as lively as usual. He leaned over to Xiao Yi's ear and chattered non-stop. He silently squatted in front of Xiao Yi and looked her up and down with his clear eyes. Xiao Yi felt uncomfortable under his stare. Xiao Bao suddenly said, "Bailey Yi, do you know that sometimes I really hate you to death?" Xiao Yi's small body stiffened. Sure enough, everyone hated him because of that incident. Xiao Bao hit his forehead hard. "You're really annoying. You obviously know how to talk, but you don't say it. You make everyone so anxious. Even my mommy cried a few times because of you." That woman cried because of him? It seemed like something she would do. When she was kidnapped, she even took a bullet for him. It wasn't unusual for her to cry because of him. Xiao Bao saw that he was in a daze and snorted coldly. "Let me tell you, don't think that my mommy is pretending just to get close to your daddy. My mommy doesn't want to get close to him. If it wasn't for Gigai. Forget it, I won't say so much to you." "Gigai?" Xiao Yi suddenly turned her head and stared at Xiao Bao. "What's wrong with Gigai?" "Oh, you're finally willing to talk." Xiao Bao glared at her angrily. "Gigai is my sister. Why are you so concerned about her?" Xiao Yi choked on his words. Her round face puffed up and her eyes sparkled. She paused for a few seconds and said, "She's my friend. It's natural for me to care about her." "Humph, who was the one who poured a drink on Gigai and caused her to fall ill?" Xiao Bao was very vengeful. He would remember anyone who dared to hurt the people he cared about for the rest of his life. I was wrong at that time. I apologize." Even though Xiao Yi was apologizing, she still looked insufferably arrogant. "Can you tell me now what happened to Gigai? Also, why did a drink cause her to fall ill? What's wrong with her?" Xiao Yi's eyes had a sharpness that didn't match her age. She caught the information that Xiao Bao had inadvertently revealed in his words. Xiao Bao rolled his eyes and sat across from him. Crossing his short legs, he said, "I can tell you, but you have to tell me who your mommy is first." Xiao Yi's expression darkened. "I don't know either. She passed away right after I was born." "Have you seen her picture?" He lowered his head sadly. "No, I don't know what she looks like." "How did your mommy pass away?" Xiao Yi clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. "They said that she eloped with someone and got into a car accident, but I don't believe them. I think she's still alive." Xiao Bao didn't know how to comfort him. He patted his little shoulder and changed the question. "Bailey Yi, how old are you this year?" Xiao Yi stared at him. "Why are you asking this?" His mind jumped too quickly. "Don't worry about it. Just tell me the answer." Xiao Bao had always been brooding over the fact that Bailey Han had abandoned the three of them and had a child with someone else. Therefore, he really wanted to find out who Bailey Han had given birth to Bailey Yi and when he had started to betray his mother. Xiao Yi thought of his condition and answered reluctantly, 4.5 years old. Xiao Bao's pupils shrank. He and Xiao Guai were also 4.5 years old. Bailey Han, that bastard, was actually fooling around with another woman when his mommy was pregnant. He was so angry. He gritted his teeth and asked, "Then what's your birthday?" "The 6th of February. Xiao Bao was petrified. The 6th of February. His and Xiao Guai's birthdays were also on the 6th of February. Boo-hoo, he was going to kill that bastard Bailey Han. No one was going to stop him. Xiao Bao suddenly jumped up from the ground. With a fierce expression, he walked out without a word. Xiao Yi was dumbfounded and called out to him, "Hey, where are you going?" Xiao Bao turned around and bared his teeth sinisterly. "I'm going to kill Bailey Han." Xiao Yi was stunned at first. Then, he held his stomach and laughed heartily. Still not satisfied, he lay on the ground and copied Xiao Bao's old actions. He rolled and laughed like a happy puppy. Xiao Bao's face darkened. He was actually being laughed at by this annoying guy. The corners of his mouth twitched. Stop laughing. Ha 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 ha. Xiao Yi seemed to want to make up for all the laughter he hadn't used in the past 4 years. He rolled around on the ground happily. Xiao Bao was completely enraged. His eyes were round and round. Fine, keep laughing. Don't think that I'll tell you about Xiao Guai. Xiao Yi stopped laughing and turned around to sit up. He raised his little chin and his eyes were full of disdain. Xia Xiao Bao, you're not a man. You don't keep your word. I despise you. Beauty novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 154. Xiao Bao raised his eyebrows, a mischievous glint in his black eyes. I'm not a man, I'm a child. This time, it was Xiao Yi's turn to grit his teeth in anger. Xia Xiao Bao, you cheated. Humph, all's fair in war. Bailey Yi, I'm sorry. Xiao Yi's eyes widened. He seemed to have thought of something and suddenly curled his lips. It's okay if you don't tell me. I'll find out myself. Take your time. Xiao Bao shrugged nonchalantly. If you have the ability to find out, it'll prove that what I said is true. Xiao Yi snorted. Don't worry. After I find out, I'll tell great-grandmother about it so that she won't have to worry. He could tell that great-grandmother didn't like Xia Dong either. It was as if she was afraid that she would steal Daddy away. Xiao Bao glared at him. You win. So, are you willing to tell me the truth now? Xiao Yi crossed his arms arrogantly. Xiao Bao glared at him fiercely. I can tell you, but you have to swear on your mommy's name that you won't tell anyone about this. If you break your oath, your mommy will never be reincarnated. Xiao Yi said angrily, that's too cruel of an oath. Xiao Bao shrugged. As long as you don't break your oath, everything will be fine. Xiao Yi was conflicted. In the end, his curiosity won out. He gritted his teeth and said, I swear that I won't tell anyone about what you told me. Otherwise, my mommy will never be reincarnated. Okay, you can tell me now. Humph, very good. You have to remember your oath. Xiao Bao patted his shoulder in satisfaction. This is what happened. Xiao Bao only talked about his sister's illness and how his mother had no choice but to give birth to a child with the same blood as Gigai to save Gigai. As smart as Bailey Yi was, he immediately reacted. His eyes widened in disbelief. So, you and Xiao Guai are also Daddy's children? That's right. Xiao Bao pouted in disdain. But I won't acknowledge him. He abandoned the 3 of us and even had you with another woman. He's so despicable. Xiao Yi didn't recover from the huge shock for a long time. He stared blankly at the floor. His daddy actually had 2 children with another woman. Hey, are you stupid? Xiao Bao poked his arm with his finger. You've already sworn that you won't tell anyone. Do you hear me? No, that's impossible. Xiao Yi grabbed his hair angrily. Didn't you say that your daddy is Mika Keto? Xiao Bao rolled his eyes. I was lying to you. If my daddy is Uncle Shen, I have no reason not to take his surname. You're lying to me. You must be lying to me. Xia Xiao Bao, I won't believe you. Xiao Bao sneered. I'm lying to you? What's the benefit of lying to you? Let me tell you, I've never liked you because your mother seduced Bailey Han and made him abandon my mother. No, that's not it. My mother isn't that kind of person. Daddy must know my mother first. Xia Xiao Bao, you're not allowed to speak ill of my mother. Humph, whether you believe it or not, that's what happened. Xiao Bao didn't back down and stared into his eyes. Xiao Yi rushed up angrily and grabbed Xiao Bao's collar. The 2 little guys wrestled with each other. Bailey Yi, I'm warning you. Don't hit my face. Xia Xiao Bao, don't grab my hair. Let go of me. The two of them fought for more than 10 minutes before they finally got tired. They grabbed each other's necks and lay on the floor, panting. Bailey, let go. You let go first. Let's let go together. I'll count to 3. Xiao Bao counted to 3, but the two sly guys didn't let go. They were still grabbing each other's necks. If you don't let go, I'll suffocate to death. I'll count to 3 again. Okay, Xiao Bao, don't play any more tricks. Xiao Bao's little face was red from suffocation. He counted to 3 again. This time, the two of them let go at the same time. They were panting and staring at each other with eyes that said, I can't wait to bite you to death. The two little guys were injured. Xiao Bao took a punch to the cheek. Xiao Yi's hair was a mess, and there was a bunch of hair on the floor that had been thrown away. Their clothes were messy and they were in a sorry state. After a few minutes, the two of them calmed down. Xiao Yi was still immersed in the huge blow. She gritted her teeth and said, if you and Xiao Guai were daddy's children, wouldn't you want to acknowledge him? Xiao Bao sneered, I won't acknowledge someone who abandoned me. As for Xiao Guai, she doesn't even know who daddy is. She also doesn't know what illness she has. So don't let it slip in the future. Xiao Yi was stunned. After a while, she asked, is Xiao Guai's illness serious? Xiao Bao's expression became serious. It's serious. It's very serious. Otherwise, my mommy wouldn't have been so desperate to get close to your daddy. Xiao Yi fell silent. She turned her back to Xiao Bao and curled her little body up. She still couldn't accept this. Xiao Bao suddenly felt sorry for her when she saw how lonely she looked. She hesitated for a few seconds, reached out, and patted her on the shoulder. She said softly, don't worry. Xiao Guai and I won't fight over your daddy. Just pretend you never heard about this. But you have to treat my mommy better in the future. Even if it's because she's been so nice to you, you have to treat her a little better. Xiao Yi hugged his knees tightly and curled himself into a ball. His clear eyes gradually became misty. He bit his lip tightly and held back the tears that were about to come. Bailey, I'm leaving. Don't pretend to be autistic. Hurry up and get better. Don't let your family worry anymore. Xiao Bao got up from the ground and looked down at him like an adult. How did you know I was pretending? Xiao Yi's voice was a little choked up. Xiao Bao rolled her eyes. Did you forget that I worked with you and asked you to pretend to be sick? Who knew that you were such a genius that you pretended to be autistic? Although you pretended to be autistic, I knew you had an ulterior motive. So, I observed you and found a small loophole. What loophole? It's because you treated me differently. Speaking of this, Xiao Bao became angry. The last time I brought Gigai to see you, you gave Gigai the pastries she liked, but you gave me the peanut butter that I hate. You must have done it on purpose. Which autistic child would be so scheming? Xiao Yi was silent. He was right. I did do it on purpose. Xiao Bao walked to the door and suddenly heard Xiao Yi's muffled voice from behind. Why is your mommy so nice to me? Xiao Bao blinked his large eyes. My mommy is kind. My mommy said that you are a child without a mommy. Although you have a bad temper, you are actually very pitiful. You yearn for a mother's love and friends, so she treats you very well. He snorted. She treats you so well that even I, her biological son, am jealous. Xiao Bao spoke casually, but Xiao Yi listened attentively. His body stiffened and his heart started to beat wildly. A bold idea popped into his mind. He was so excited that his voice trembled. Xiao Bao, is it possible that she is actually my mommy too? Xiao Bao's delicate eyebrows shot up. He widened his eyes and said angrily, what do you mean? Are you trying to steal my mommy? Roar, this damn annoying person. Did he eat a leopard's guts? No. Little Wingsy abruptly sat up, his eyes flashing with fanaticism. How old are you? When is your birthday? Xiao Bao's eyes narrowed. Same as you. 4.5 years old. My birthday is on the 6th of February. Xiao Yi suddenly rushed over and placed both hands on his shoulders. Isn't it obvious? We were both born on the same day. She cares about me and even took a bullet for me. If she isn't my mommy, why would she do that? What did you say? My mommy took a bullet for you? Xiao Bao was shocked. His eyes widened in disbelief. No, that's impossible, Xiao Yi nodded vigorously. When we were kidnapped, she stopped the kidnappers from hurting me many times. Also, I keep feeling that there's something wrong with the way she looks at me. It's like she's very sad. No, I don't believe it. Xiao Bao had always believed that Bailey Han abandoned his mommy and had Bailey Yi with another woman. Now that the plot had been reversed, it was destroying his belief. Xiao Bao violently pushed Xiao Yi away. It was as if he was being chased by a ferocious beast. He ran out of his room in a panic. Xiao Yi stared blankly at the empty doorway. After the shock and excitement, it was followed by endless pain. His little face was filled with grief. If she really was his mommy, why would she abandon him? Why? Xiao Bao, what's wrong? Xia Dong suddenly stood up from the sofa. She looked in shock at Xiao Bao, who was running down the stairs. His handsome little face was covered in tears. Xiao Bao threw himself at her. She quickly bent down and picked him up. Baby, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Quick, tell mommy. Xiao Bao looked at her anxious expression and burst into tears. She had never seen him cry so sadly. Her heart ached as well. She stroked his weak back to comfort him. Baby, it's okay. It's okay. Mommy is here. Mommy will take you home. She lovingly kissed her son's forehead. Ignoring the servant's curious gazes, she smiled apologetically at the butler. I'm sorry. Baby isn't feeling well. I'll take him home first. The butler thought that Xiao Bao had an argument with his young master. He bowed politely. Miss Xia, young Master Qi, please take care. Xia Dong carried her son and left. She didn't know that Xiao Yi was standing at the top of the stairs, looking at their backs with an expressionless face. Xiao Bao curled up in her arms. He was crying so hard that his tears soaked her clothes. She placed him in the front passenger seat. She pulled out a tissue and gently wiped the tears from his face. She said gently, Baby, tell mommy what happened. Xiao Bao gradually stopped crying. He raised his little face. His large eyes were still filled with tears. Mommy, is Xiao Yi also your child? Add Hongcha 866. Chapter 155. Xiao Bao gradually stopped sobbing. He lifted his little face, and his big eyes were still filled with tears. Mommy, is Xiao Yi your child too? Xia Dong's breathing instantly stopped. Her beautiful eyes were instantly filled with shock. She fiercely pinched her palm before she found her voice again. Xiao Bao, why would you have such a strange thought? Then why did you take the bullet for him? Xiao Bao's face was filled with grief and indignation. Xia Dong pursed her lips and tried to calm herself down. He's a child, and mommy is an adult. It's normal for adults to protect children. Is that really the case? His dark eyes stared straight at her as if he wanted to look into the depths of her heart. Of course. Why would mommy lie to you? Xia Dong laughed dryly and patted his head. Don't let your imagination run wild. Let's go home. She started the car and looked straight ahead. She focused on driving as if nothing had happened. Xiao Bao's heart was filled with suspicion. He was not a 3-year-old child who could be fooled so easily. He had caught his mommy's flash of panic just now. He would definitely find out the truth. It was midsummer, and the weather could change at any moment. It was a poisonous day when they left the old Bailey mansion. They had just reached the foot of the mountain when it suddenly started raining heavily. The rain splashed against the car window. Xiaodong slowed down the car and glanced sideways at Xiao Bao, who was staring out the window in a daze. Baby, did Xiao Yi speak today? Xiao Bao had already begun to suspect that his mommy was also Bailey Yi's mommy. When he heard that she was concerned about him, the suspicion in his heart intensified. He was very upset and said angrily, "She did. It's a good thing that she spoke." Xiaodong smiled, but then she thought about how Xiao Bao ran down the stairs crying. Could it be that even Xiao Yi knew? Worry surfaced in her heart again. Her phone suddenly rang. It was a call from Mika Keto. "Hello, Brother Shen." Mika Keto stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in the office and looked at the pouring rain outside. Her expression was a little heavy. "Are you home now? It's raining heavily outside." "Not yet. We just reached the foot of the mountain in the villa area." "Brother Shen, is something the matter?" Xia Dong noticed that his tone was a little heavy. Mika Keto rubbed her eyebrows. "Something happened in Japan. I need to go back to deal with it." Xia Dong frowned. "What's going on? Is it serious?" Sumiyoshi Kai and Inagawa Kai have recently stolen a lot of Yamaguchi Gumi's business. I heard that Inagawa Kai has also smuggled a large number of drugs from Vietnam. They want to invade Yamaguchi Gumi's sphere of influence. The Sumiyoshi Kai and the Inagawa Kai were the two major Japanese gangs, second only to the Yamaguchi Gumi. The three gangs were harmonious on the surface, but in fact, there were undercurrents and constant struggles. They must have known that the leader of Yamaguchi Gumi was not in the Japanese headquarters, so they took the opportunity to seize territory. Mika Keto felt that drugs were too harmful, so she hated them very much. In her sphere of influence, the sale of drugs was prohibited. Mika Keto was aiming at this fat piece of meat and wanted to introduce drugs to her. Xia Dong quickly understood the seriousness of the matter and said, "Brother Shen, have you booked the plane tickets? When do you plan to go back?" "I'll rush back tonight. I'll ask Lu Xing to stay and protect you." Mika Keto had already asked Jiang Dao to pack his luggage and leave it in the office. After he settled the company's matters, he would take a plane back to Japan. "Okay, Brother Shen. You have to take care of yourself. Don't let yourself get hurt, okay?" Mika Keto smiled, and her eyes were filled with tenderness. "I know. You have to take care of yourself too. Take good care of the children and wait for me to come back." "I know." Xia Dong listened to him say a few more words and handed the earpiece to Xiao Bao. "Baby, Uncle Shen has something to say to you." "Uncle Shen, are you going back to Japan?" Xiao Bao put on the earpiece, puffed up his cheeks, and said, "When will you come back?" "Half a month at least, and a month at most. I'll be back as soon as possible." Mika Keto said softly, "Xiao Bao, you're already a man. You have to listen to mommy and take good care of Gigai, okay?" "Okay, I know. I'll also look after mom and not let her run around, lest she gets into trouble again." His voice was young, but his expression was serious. He looked like a little old man. The corners of Beitang Shen's lips curled up. He was half joking and half serious. "If other men approach her, remember to chase them away." Xiao Bao nodded seriously. "Yes, that's right." Before Mika Keto left, she had already arranged everything. She was worried that Xia Dong would tire herself out, so she specially hired a nanny. In addition to Lu Xing, who was ordered to protect her, there was also a female bodyguard named Suzaku who rushed over from Japan to protect them. Suzaku arrived in China the next morning. She was very beautiful, charming, and gorgeous, but it was a pity that she had a cold expression on her face, as if someone owed her a lot of money. Xia Dong joked in Japanese, "Suzaku, I just found out that Yamaguchi Gumi has such a beautiful bodyguard like you." Suzaku replied in Chinese, "Strictly speaking, I'm not a member of Yamaguchi Gumi. I just signed an agreement with Mika Keto and worked for him." "Oh, I see." Xia Dong nodded in understanding. Suddenly, her eyes narrowed. You're from China? Yes. Suzaku was a woman of few words. Miss Xia, if there's nothing else, I'll go out first. Okay, thank you for your hard work. I'll prepare a room for you. Xia Dong lived in a 3-bedroom apartment. She planned to let Xiao Guai sleep with her and leave Xiao Guai's room for Suzaku. As for Lu Xing, she would let him do whatever he wanted after work. Xia Dong had been unkind for a long time. No, I have a house in a city. Suzaku had a villa in a city before she was sent to Japan by Mika Kito. It was obvious that being a killer was a high-risk, high-income profession. The rain didn't stop until evening. Bailey Han drove back to the old house. Immediately, a servant was waiting for him at the gate with an umbrella. As soon as he opened the car door, the servant held the umbrella and said with a smile, "Young master, you're finally back. Little master is speaking." A look of surprise flashed across Bailey Han's eyes. He quickened his pace and walked to the living room. As soon as he reached the door of the living room, he heard the old lady's laughter and Xiao Yi's clear and tender voice. He seemed to be telling a joke, which made the old lady laugh. Bailey Xiong and Bai Jinxiu were also sitting in the living room with smiles on their faces. The servant took off his wet coat and hung it on the floor hanger. Bai Jinxiu smiled and said, "Ahan, you're back at the right time. Come and listen to Xiao Yi's joke." It made the old lady very happy. "That's right. Come and listen too." The old lady wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. No one could tell if they were tears of laughter or tears of joy. "Daddy, you're back." Xiao Yi stood up from the sofa and greeted him Gigai. Bailey Han patted his head, picked him up, and put him on his lap. "What joke is Xiao Yi telling? Tell it to Daddy too." "Okay." His beautiful eyes curved. "But Daddy, I have a condition. If I can make you laugh, you have to promise me one thing. You've learned to negotiate with Daddy?" Bailey Han's eyes were smiling. His cold and handsome face seemed to soften a lot. He ruffled his hair. "Let's hear it." He pursed his lips, and his dark eyes were filled with anticipation. "Daddy, I want to thank Chief Editor Xia in person. I know that she took good care of me when I was sick." The old lady's expression changed. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she held back. Bailey Xiong and his wife's expressions were also a little ugly. Bailey Han's lips curved. "You should thank her, but I can only make a decision after I hear your joke." Little Wingzi's eyebrows also curved as he began to tell a lively joke. The joke itself was not very funny, but when paired with his rich facial expressions, it seemed particularly funny. Bailey Han looked at his little face brimming with smiles. That pair of eyes that were as bright as the stars made him smile from the bottom of his heart. He realized that after his son fell ill, he had become a little different. His expression had become richer, and he smiled more often. He enjoyed the change in his son. Before going to bed, Bailey Han went to Xiao Yi's room. He was already asleep. His small body lay on the bed and only took up a small space. He didn't seem to be sleeping very well, and his brows were slightly furrowed. Bailey Han reached out and smoothed out the wrinkles between his brows. He gently stroked his cheek. Just as he retracted his hand and stood up, he suddenly heard Xiao Yi's sleep-talking voice. "Mommy, don't go, don't abandon me." Bailey Han's breath stopped. When he came out of his son's room, he was in a terrible mood. He remembered that 4.5 years ago, the old madam had brought little Wingzi to him and told him that he had a child with a woman. At that time, he had been shocked and at a loss. He tried hard to recall what the woman who had given birth to his child looked like, but he could not recall. When Xiao Yi was 2 years old, he asked him where his mommy was. He couldn't answer, so he could only tell Xiao Yi the answer that the old lady told him. He said that his mommy was already dead. Xiao Yi didn't believe him. He said that his mommy wasn't dead. She just went somewhere far away. He even cried and asked him for his mommy. He was so angry that he hit Xiao Yi for the first time. Bailey Han didn't expect that Xiao Yi still didn't want to believe that his mommy was already dead. Sitting on the deck chair on the balcony, he was exposed to the night sky that had been washed by the rain. The cool air seeped into his heart, and his irritated mood gradually calmed down. However, he couldn't help but think of someone. His finger repeatedly scrolled through the contact list on his phone. He was hesitant. What was she doing at this time? Was she with Mika Keto? Bailey Han rubbed his brows. He persuaded himself that he called her for business. He just wanted to tell her that Xiao Yi wanted to see her. Hello, Bailey Han. Her voice was very soft and comfortable to listen to. Ad Shinwoo 799. Chapter 156. He paused. Xia Dong, Xiao Yi is willing to talk. She smiled happily. Congratulations. He smiled. I'm very grateful for everything you've done. Xiao Yi is also very grateful. He wants to thank you in person. When are you free? I'd like to treat you to a meal. Well. Xia Dong glanced at the little guys who were playing games on the sofa. It's okay. We didn't do anything. His voice was low. Don't misunderstand. I don't mean anything else. If Mr. Beitang is willing to come, I'd be honored. Xia Dong knew that he had misunderstood. She quickly said, no, Brother Shen went to Japan. He won't have any objections. I just don't think there's a need. She slapped her forehead gloomily. Xiao Bao was already suspicious. Maybe Xiao Yi was also suspicious. She just wanted to fade out of Xiao Yi's sight temporarily. I insist. Xia Dong, don't reject me. He was like a supreme king announcing his decision. I'll pick you and the children up at 6:00 tomorrow night. But beep beep. The call ended. Xia Dong held her forehead helplessly. He was too domineering. She hadn't even finished speaking. Bailey Han knew that old madam didn't like Xia Dong, so he specially arranged for the banquet to be held in his villa to avoid awkwardness for Xia Dong. Although he and Xiao Yi hadn't returned to the villa for a long time, the servants still cleaned the place every day. It was spotless. When they returned, they didn't feel uncomfortable at all. According to his instructions, the butler added a rocking chair, hanging basket, seesaw, and other children's play facilities in the garden. In just one afternoon, the butler led the servants to decorate the villa's outdoor balcony into a Caribbean-style banquet venue. Under the blue sky and white clouds, the golden sunset covered the entire open-air balcony with a layer of faint radiance. Tall palm trees, coconut trees, and date trees exuded the unique fragrance of trees and fruits. Under the parasols, there were a few white reclining chairs placed side by side. The ground was covered with a layer of fine and soft white sand, which was said to be specially transported from overseas beaches. Not far away, there was a barbecue rack. A foreign chef in a chef's uniform had already started barbecuing the meat. The fresh meat sizzled on the barbecue rack, and the aroma of the meat permeated the air. A violinist stood by the railing, his back facing the setting sun as he played a melodious tune. Bailey Han was wearing a white tuxedo, and Xiao Yi was also wearing a white suit. When the father and son stood together, they looked exactly the same and were both extraordinarily handsome. Everything was so charming. The moment Xia Dong and the children stepped onto the balcony, they were immediately mesmerized. Xiao Guai's little face was red with excitement. He covered his face and screamed, "It's so beautiful. Mommy, it's exactly like the beach." Xiao Bao didn't say anything, but from his sparkling eyes, it was obvious that he liked it. Xia Dong smiled faintly. "It's very beautiful. We like it very much." She was wearing a bohemian-style long dress. It was sleeveless and cinched at the waist, and the hem of the dress flowed elegantly. It was extremely compatible with the sunny beach. A gentle breeze blew and lifted her long hair. She raised her chin slightly, feeling the comfort of the breeze. Her side profile looked tranquil and beautiful under the sunlight. She smiled. Bailey Han, I also brought a guest over. I hope you don't mind. The guest Xia Dong was talking about was Suzaku, who was standing behind her. She didn't want to let Suzaku follow them, but she insisted. She said that it was Mika Kito's orders. She had to follow them when they went out, even when they went to buy groceries. Bailey Han raised his eyebrows in surprise. Suzaku? I didn't expect you to work for Mika Kito now. Suzaku was expressionless. I admit defeat. Bailey Han's thin lips curved. Your master ordered you to follow Xia Dong at all times, including when she goes on dates? Suzaku glanced at him indifferently. Mika Kito is worried that someone has kidnapped Miss Xia. Xia Dong wiped her sweat and quickly smiled. Suzaku, since you're here, don't just stand there. Do whatever you like. I think Mr. Bailey won't mind, okay? She looked at Bailey Han for help. Bailey Han shrugged. Of course he won't mind. Miss Suzaku, please make yourself at home. The last golden ray of the setting sun slid past the horizon. They were either lying or sitting on the beach, enjoying the delicious food and listening to the melodious music. It was as if they could hear the sound of the waves. The cool breeze blew gently and it was extremely comfortable. Bailey Han held orange juice in one hand and red wine in the other. He sat on the recliner beside her and handed her the orange juice. There was a gentle smile on his face. Let me toast to you. Thank you for taking care of Xiao Yi these days. You can't drink alcohol, so orange juice can replace it. I didn't do anything. You don't have to be so polite. Xia Dong clinked her glass with his and smiled as she took a sip of the orange juice in her glass. Bailey Han tilted his head and looked at the three little rascals playing in the rocking chairs in the distance. He chuckled and said, they are getting along very well now. I'm very happy that they have become friends. There is a kind of friend that is called no discord, no concord. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao are like that. Xia Dong looked at them laughing and her heart softened. Her eyes were as bright as the stars and there was a charming smile on her face. Bailey Han's gaze fell on her. She was very beautiful when she smiled. Her eyes were curved like beautiful crescent moons. Her eyes were clean and clear without any impurities. Her happiness seemed to be very simple. As long as the children were happy, she would be happy too. She was very rational when she was working, but sometimes she would be silly when facing him. He couldn't help but want to get closer to her. Xia Dong received his passionate gaze. She touched her hair uncomfortably and smiled. I'm going to see the children. She put down her glass and got up to leave. He suddenly grabbed her wrist. Her body stiffened and she didn't dare to look back. His voice was low and hoarse. Xia Dong, who is the father of the children? Is it Mika Kito? Xia Dong lowered her head. Is the answer very important? It's very important to me. If it was Mika Kito, then he had no chance at all. He waited for her verdict. His heart was thumping. She closed her eyes and said slowly, no. His throat bobbed. Then who is it? He's no longer around. He tightened his grip on her wrist and pulled her into a warm embrace. Suzaku, who was sitting at the side quietly eating barbecued meat, put down her plate and stood up vigilantly. Her sharp eyes stared at Bailey Han. If he did anything out of line, she would not hesitate to take action. Bailey Han ignored her and said in a low voice, who is the father of the children you're carrying now? Xia Dong smiled. This time, it's Mika Kito. No, I don't believe it. He pinched her chin and forced her to look into his eyes. His eyes were dark and deep, just like the sky before a storm. He lowered his voice with a hint of anticipation. We've done it twice in total. I didn't use any protection on both occasions. She interrupted him. No, it's not yours. The blood drained from his face. All his fantasies were shattered. She laughed self-deprecatingly. That's right. What you're seeing now is the real me. I'm a promiscuous woman who's two-timing. You can use any word you like, stop talking. He suddenly covered her mouth. There was a cold anger in his eyes. I'm too stupid. This matter ends here. He used so much strength that it hurt her face. However, she did not make a sound or struggle. She only looked at him quietly. Her pair of clear and bright eyes were devoid of sorrow, joy, anger, and displeasure. His heart was filled with grief and indignation. Why did he still have hope? Why did he end up humiliating himself? Suzaku said coldly, Bailey Han, let go of Miss Xia. You're not allowed to bully my mommy. Let go of her. Xiao Bao realized that there was something wrong with the adults here. She jumped down from the rocking chair and rushed over without thinking. She kicked Bailey Han's long legs fiercely. Bailey Han slowly released his hand. His face was dark as he left the balcony without a word. He was in a terrible mood and needed to be alone to get some fresh air. With the crisis resolved, Suzaku sat down and continued to enjoy the food and wine. Mom, are you all right? Xiao Bao nudged Xia Dong, who was frozen on the spot, worriedly. I'm fine. Xia Dong revealed a smile and sat down on the rocking chair. Xiao Yi also ran over and pointed at the fruit platter on the table. Chief Editor Xia, the servants just delivered these fruits. What do you like to eat? I'll get it for you. He looked so cute in his white suit. Xia Dong couldn't help but pat his head. She smiled and said, Thank you, Xiao Yi, but there's no need. I'm already full. Brother, come over quickly. There's a little bug on the rocking chair. I don't dare to get down. Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi both ran away, leaving Xiao Guai alone on the rocking chair. She cried out pitifully. Gigai, don't be afraid. I'll be right there. Xiao Bao ran away quickly. Xia Dong stood up and wanted to follow, but Xiao Yi suddenly grabbed her finger. There was a sweet smile on her little face. Chief Editor Xia, I see a strand of white hair on your head. Can I pluck it out for you? Ah. White hair? Xia Dong was shocked. Was she that old? Yes, Auntie. You're a little shorter. I'll pluck it out for you. Xia Dong glanced at the rocking chair. Xiao Bao should have already removed the bug. Xiao Guai jumped down from the rocking chair. The siblings walked over hand in hand. Oh, okay. Then I'll have to trouble you. Xia Dong squatted down and lowered her head. She felt a pair of small hands caress her hair. Then, she felt a sudden pain. Are you done? She asked. Yes, I'm done. Xiao Yi quickly plucked it out and put it in his pocket. She looked up. Xiao Yi, let me see. Xiao Yi had already taken out a strand of white hair from his other pocket. He handed it to her. Actually, he picked it up from his great-grandmother's room. Attention, Hongcha 866. Chapter 157. Ah. My hair is really white. Am I really that old? Xia Dong was very sad. She was clearly not even 30 years old yet, sob. Mommy, why are you squatting on the ground? Xiao Bao walked over with Xiao Guai and asked curiously. Bao Bao, Gigai, Mommy's hair is already white. If Mommy becomes an old woman, will you still love Mommy? Xia Dong hugged her children sadly and rubbed against them. Xiao Bao's face turned green. Mom, it's normal to have white hair. Look at the young man's white hair. He's still a teenager and he already has white hair. It's your fault for overusing your brain. When we go back, I'll research a diet to nourish you. I'm sure you'll be rejuvenated. Oh, that's true. But you haven't answered my question. When I become an old woman, will you despise me? Will you be like those unfilial children in the news and chase old grandpas and grandpas out of the house? Xia Dong seized the opportunity to instill the traditional virtues of filial piety. Xiao Bao rolled his eyes. Mom, I told you it's not good to watch too much TV. Look at you. You're still young and you're already suffering from paranoia. How scary. Xiao Guai's soft body wriggled in Xia Dong's arms. Mommy, don't worry. Even if you become an old woman, my brother and I won't despise you. Xia Dong was so happy that her eyes turned into crescents. Xiao Yi was almost petrified. Was this childlike woman really Xia Xiaobao and Xiao Guai's mommy? And could she really be their mommy? He couldn't help but touch the hair hidden in his pocket. It would only take a week for the paternity test results to come out and he would know the answer. Bailey Han went downstairs to the living room. He leaned on the sofa and rubbed his brows. Suddenly, the landline beside him rang. As soon as he picked up the call, old Madame Gu's unhappy voice came through. Han, you're in such a hurry to move back to the villa with Xiao Yi because you want to invite Xia Dong to a banquet, right? Grandma, Xia Dong has helped us a lot. You also agreed to let Xiao Yi thank her in person. Madame Dowager said angrily, I agreed, but I meant to invite her to the old mansion and make it clear in front of the whole family. Now you've secretly invited her to your house. If Yunxian finds out, what will she think? Bailey Han pressed his throbbing veins. Grandma, I've already broken up with Yunxian. No matter what I do in the future, I don't have to care about what she thinks. Break up? When did this happen? The old madam was shocked and angry. It's been more than half a month. The sound of something breaking came from the other end of the phone. Old madam was so angry that she was trembling all over. Bailey Han, you've grown up and I can't control you anymore, right? Why are you only telling me such an important thing now? Bailey Han held his forehead. Grandma, don't be so agitated. I just think that this is between me and her. There's no need for you to worry about it. Is this between the two of you? This is between the Bailey family and the Su family. Bailey Han, go back to the old mansion immediately and make things clear. Bailey Han lowered his voice. Grandma, I still have guests now. I'll go back early tomorrow morning, okay? No. You have to come back now. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. It's because of Xia Dong that you've become like this. I'm telling you, you're not allowed to have any contact with her in the future. Come back quickly. Grandma, Bailey Han still wanted to persuade her, but Madame Dowager clutched her chest and cried out in pain. Bailey Han, you unfilial grandson. Are you trying to anger me to death? Ouch, my chest hurts so much. Bailey Han had a headache. Okay, I got it. Grandma, don't hurt anymore. I'll go back as soon as possible. Madame Dowager was the absolute leader in the family. No one dared to disobey her, including Bailey Han, who was very filial to her. Bailey Han returned to the balcony. Xia Dong was playing games with the children. When she saw him, she got up and said goodbye. It's getting late. I should go back. He nodded. I'll send you down. Watching the BMW disappear into the night, Bailey Han squatted down and patted Xiao Yi's head. Xiao Yi, I'm going to the old mansion to visit great-grandma. Go to bed early. Daddy, I want to go with you. I miss great-grandma and grandma too. Xiao Yi saw that his expression was serious. She had a premonition that something was going to happen, so she wanted to go with him. Bailey Han knew that a storm was coming for him. He didn't want his son to be affected. Xiao Yi, Daddy has something to deal with when he goes back. Gigai, stay at home. I'll take you back tomorrow, okay? Xiao Yi and Gigai nodded. After Bailey Han left, Xiao Yi ran into the living room to check the caller ID on the landline. She asked the butler, Grandpa Butler, did my great-grandma call just now? Otherwise, Daddy wouldn't have suddenly suggested going back to the old mansion. They had just moved back from the old mansion this morning. Yes, little master. What did they talk about? Xiao Yi's big eyes were filled with eagerness and anticipation. Grandpa Butler, you were in the living room just now. You must have heard it, right? This. The butler wiped the sweat from his forehead. He couldn't speak carelessly. Grandpa Butler, just tell me, okay? Xiao Yi suddenly hugged the butler's leg. She raised her little face and looked at him with a pair of big eyes. She imitated Xiao Bao's cute expression perfectly. Little master. The butler was in tears. Who could tell him why the usually mature and calm little master suddenly became a cute little cutie? In the end, the old butler, who liked children, couldn't resist Xiao Yi's cute tactics. He wiped his sweat and said, Old Madam and Elder Master were talking about Miss Su. It seems that Elder Master and Miss Su broke up. The old butler didn't dare to say anything else. What welcomed Bailey Han was a storm. As soon as he stepped into the living room of the old mansion, he felt the suffocating pressure in the living room. The whole family stared at him with dark faces. Old Madam stabbed the floor with her walking stick. Han, tell me, why did you break up with Yunxian? We're not compatible. After all, Su Yunxian was the woman he had loved for many years. Even if she had made a mistake, he didn't want his family to hate her, so he didn't tell them the real reason. Not compatible? Bai Jinxiu couldn't help but raise her voice. You've been together for 6 years. You betrayed her back then and had Xiao Yi with another woman. Not only did she not break up with you, but she also magnanimously helped you get back on your feet. Don't you remember? Now you want to break up with her because of a simple, we're not compatible. How can you face her? Bailey Han's eyes darkened. A few years ago, he had a car accident. Not only did he lose his memory, but his legs were also seriously injured. He almost couldn't stand up. It was Yun Xian who accompanied him for 6 months of rehabilitation before he could stand up again. In the bottom of his heart, he was full of gratitude and trust for her. It was because of his deep love that he blamed her. When he found out that his perfect lover had become a woman full of lies and unscrupulous in order to achieve her goals, his heart hurt more than anyone else. He was silent. Bailey Xiong was furious. He slammed the table and scolded sternly, Han, how can you face the Su family by doing this? What will outsiders think of the Bailey family? Bailey Han's heart sank. He stared sharply at his father. Others can blame me, but you don't have the right to do so. The one who humiliated the Bailey family is not me, Bailey Han, but you. Back then, who didn't know that the young master of the Bailey family had a mistress outside and even brought his illegitimate child home? Even now, Lu Xiaoxiao was still living in the villa he bought for her. You unfilial son. Bailey Xiong was so angry that his blood pressure rose. He pointed at him with a trembling finger. I'm telling you, as long as I'm alive, you must marry Yun Xian. Impossible. Bailey Han spat out these 3 words coldly. The elders were so angry that they were about to vomit blood. The old madam tried to suppress her anger. She raised her hand to stop Bailey Xiong from continuing. Her eyes were as sharp as knives. She stared at Bailey Han. Han, tell me honestly. Did you break up with Yun Xian because of Xia Dong? No, this has nothing to do with her. Bailey Han said calmly. Grandma, she's an outsider. Don't drag her into this. The old madam sneered. An outsider? Han, I watched you grow up. You can't hide from my eyes. I know how special you are to her. I'll make it clear today. Even if you break up with Yun Xian, don't even think about marrying Xia Dong. As long as I'm alive, don't even think about it. Bailey Han's face darkened. He wanted to ask why everyone in the family hated Xia Dong so much, but he held back. If he brought the topic to Xia Dong now, it would only bring her trouble. He insisted on breaking up with Su Yunxian. It had nothing to do with outsiders. The old madam said coldly, don't give me perfunctory words like unsuitable. Tell me honestly, why did you break up with Yunxian? Bailey Han frowned. Grandma, I've already made it very clear. If you don't have anything else to say, I'll go back first. Xiao Yi is still waiting for me at home. Don't you dare leave. The old madam stood up angrily, picked up the walking stick, and hit him. I'll kill you, you heartless thing. Yunxian has been with you for so many years. Even if she didn't make any contributions, she still worked hard. How can you be so heartless? Bailey Han nimbly avoided her attack. He was extremely irritated. He didn't expect to face such a big resistance when breaking up with Su Yunxian. The old madam missed every hit. Instead, she was so tired that she panted. She covered her chest and cried out in pain, "Ouch, my chest hurts." Mom, don't be agitated. Sit down. Bailey Xiong hurriedly supported her. Bai Jinxiu asked the servant to bring the medicine and help the old madam take it. Bailey Han saw that she didn't seem to be pretending and became anxious. He quickly went forward and rubbed her back. Grandma, how are you? Do you feel better? Welfare, Xinwu 799. Chapter 158. The old madam took a deep breath and slapped him on the arm. Tears streamed down her face. You brat, why are you always so worrisome? I thought that you would be more mature now that you're a father, but you still did something so infuriating. Grandma, don't be agitated. Be careful not to hurt your body. If you're angry, take it out on me. I'm thick-skinned, so I'm not afraid of being hit. Bailey Han caressed her back and coaxed her. The old madam huffed. What's the point of hitting you? If you really want to appease my anger, apologize to Yunxian and reconcile with her quickly. Great-grandma, grandpa, grandma, daddy. No one noticed that Xiao Yi had suddenly appeared at the door of the living room. Baby Yi, why are you here? The old madam quickly waved her hand. Xiao Yi walked in front of her and looked up pitifully. Great-grandma, don't blame my daddy. Baby Yi, great-grandma isn't blaming your daddy. I'm just discussing something with him. The old madam carried him onto her lap and stroked his head. How did you get here? I asked the chauffeur uncle to send me here. Great-grandma, I suddenly thought of something, so I came over. You won't blame me, right? Xiao Yi leaned his head into her arms and said crisply. Oh, you mischievous boy. How dare you come out of the house alone? Aren't you worried that great-grandma will blame you? Now you know how to worry. Her beloved great-grandson was acting coquettishly in the old madam's arms. Her anger subsided a lot. She pinched his soft cheeks and said, What did you think of that made you come over? Xiao Yi looked at the old madam innocently with his big eyes. His little face puffed up slightly, making him look very lovable. I was thinking about how I rolled down the stairs that night. The old madam was shocked. What happened? Xiao Yi paused and said, I accidentally heard Auntie Yunxian talking to someone on the phone. The other party seemed to be called Godfather. That night, I went up the stairs with Auntie Yunxian, and I asked her who Godfather was. Auntie Yunxian seemed to be in a panic. She told me not to talk nonsense. I lied to her. I said I knew who the Godfather was, and she pushed me down the stairs. Xiao Yi's face was full of fear, and her small body trembled. She hugged the old madam's waist in fear. Great-grandmother, I'm so scared, the old madam was shocked. She hugged him tightly and patted his back. Xiao Yi, did you make a mistake? Why would Yunxian push you down the stairs? Xiao Yi suddenly raised her head. Her bright eyes were filled with tears and her face was full of fear. Great-grandma, I didn't make a mistake. I didn't lie. She really pushed me down the stairs. No, how could this be? How could this be? The old madam couldn't believe it. Yunxian had always been good to Xiao Yi. How could she do such a thing? If someone else said it, she definitely wouldn't believe it. But Xiao Yi never lied. Bailey Han's feelings were very complicated. He had always wanted to find out the truth about Xiao Yi falling down the stairs. But when he found out the truth, his heart hurt more than anyone else. Bai Jinxiu and Bailey Xiong were also shocked. Bai Jinxiu shook her head. I don't believe it. Xiao Yi, did you lie because you didn't want Yunxian to be your mommy? I didn't. Grandma, every word I said was the truth. Xiao Yi said angrily. Bailey Han rubbed his brows and said in a deep voice, Mom, Xiao Yi didn't lie. That night, I heard Xiao Yi and Yunxian's conversation at the top of the stairs. Did you also see Yunxian push Xiao Yi down the stairs? Bai Jinxiu was very satisfied with Su Yunxian as her future daughter-in-law, so she naturally spoke up for her. Also, who is the godfather? Why did Yunxian panic when she heard his name? The whole thing is completely baffling. Mom, although I didn't see Yunxian push Xiao Yi down the stairs, I believe that Xiao Yi wouldn't lie. When Bailey Han looked at his mother now, it was as if he was looking at himself in the past. His bias towards Su Yunxian had already reached a terrifying level. Mom, the godfather is the middleman of a city's killer organization. Why did Yunxian panic when she heard his name? Why did Xiao Yi hear her talking to the godfather? Isn't the information revealed clear enough? Bailey Han didn't want to involve Xia Dong's matter. Bai Jinxiu still didn't want to believe it. Old Madam's face turned pale. She was more rational than Bai Jinxiu, and of course, she thought more deeply than her. What else could a middleman of a killer organization do? It was either to reminisce about the past or to hire a killer. If it was the former, Yunxian didn't have to panic. If it was the latter, it proved that she wasn't as kind and virtuous as she appeared to be. Since she wasn't a kind person, it was very likely that she pushed Xiao Yi down the stairs to silence her. Old Madam could accept that the woman in Bailey's family was ruthless. Otherwise, how could she support the whole Bailey's family? But she could only be ruthless to outsiders, not her own family. If Su Yunxian really did something to hurt Xiao Yi, then she couldn't enter Bailey's family. Old Madam already had a plan in her heart, but she didn't rush to make a conclusion. She looked up at Bailey Han and asked, Is this why you broke up with Yunxian? Bailey Han didn't say anything, which was a tacit admission. Xiao Yi refused to let Su Yunxian off easily. He tugged at Old Madam's sleeve and said, Great-grandma, I heard that Aunt Yunxian is pregnant. It's not Daddy's child, Xiao Yi, don't talk nonsense. Bai Jinxiu scolded him harshly. You're still a child. What do you mean by pregnant? Where did you hear it from? Don't tell anyone. It'll ruin Yunxian's reputation. I'm not talking nonsense. Xiao Yi's eyes were filled with tears. He looked very pitiful. Old Madam couldn't bear to see Xiao Yi sad. Okay, Jinxiu, Xiao Yi is still a child. Just teach him well. Why are you shouting so loudly? He touched Xiao Yi's head and said, Xiao Yi, where did you hear it from? I heard Daddy and Aunt Yunxian quarreling that day, Xiao Yi said aggrievedly. Old Madam's face darkened. Han, what's going on? Bailey Han was very helpless against his son's method of forcing a duck onto a perch. He had no choice but to tell them the truth. This matter started 2 months ago. Actually, we didn't have sex. Her pregnancy was also fake. Bai Jinxiu had never heard anyone mention Su Yunxian's pregnancy until now. After hearing so much information all at once, she was shocked. Old Madam's heart became clear. Only then did she realize that Su Yunxian was not simple. She had said that she had a miscarriage at the hospital back then, probably to cover up the fake pregnancy. How dare you hide this kind of thing from me? Old Madam was disappointed in Bailey Han and even more disappointed in Su Yunxian. Bailey Han did not refute and said lightly, Grandma, I've already made up my mind to break up with Yunxian. Don't force me anymore. Old Madam suddenly looked a lot older. She sighed. Forget it. A forcibly picked melon won't be sweet. Let it be. Bailey Han frowned. Mom, how are we going to explain this to the Su family? Old Madam pinched the space between her eyebrows. Ahan and Yunxian broke up half a month ago. The Su family hasn't said anything. I guess they don't know about Ahan's breakup either. Let's leave it at that for now. If the Su family really wants to fall out with us, we have nothing to be afraid of. After all, we're on the side of reason. After the storm, everyone except Xiao Yi looked a little tired. Bailey Han brought Xiao Yi back to the villa. The father and son did not speak along the way. The atmosphere in the car was tense. The driver was sweating profusely. He brought the young master back to the old mansion without the eldest young master's permission. Would he be punished? Fortunately, Bailey Han did not mention this. After getting out of the car, Bailey Han sent Xiao Yi back to the room. Xiao Yi sat at the head of the bed unhappily with a sullen face. Bailey Han squatted in front of him and asked, "Why are you unhappy?" He pouted. "Because Daddy is angry." "Daddy, are you angry because I said bad things about Auntie Yunxian in front of great-grandma?" "Daddy is not angry." Bailey Han did not know how to explain his complicated feelings to him. He could only say, Auntie Yunxian might have done something wrong temporarily. If everyone knows that she did something wrong, she might never have the chance to change. "I just don't want to see great-grandma blame Daddy." Xiao Yi's serious expression warmed Bailey Han's heart. He hugged his son tightly and said softly, "Daddy knows." Xiao Yi reached out and hugged him. After a moment of silence, he said, "Daddy, do you still remember what Mommy looks like?" Bailey Han paused. "I don't remember." "Why are you suddenly asking about this?" Xiao Yi's mood suddenly fell. "Because I saw Xiao Bao and the others playing happily with Chief Editor Xia today." Bailey Han's body stiffened. He lied to him. Xiao Yi's mommy is a very gentle person. She loves Xiao Yi very much, just like Daddy. Really? Xiao Yi's big eyes welled up with tears. However, he buried his head in Bailey Han's chest and did not let him see it. "It's true." Bailey Han gently stroked his back. "Daddy, can you tell me how you met Mommy?" There was a hint of nervousness in his soft voice. Bailey Han smiled bitterly. Actually, he did not remember either. He could only change what old Madam had told him before and tell Xiao Yi. "Your Mommy and I met at a bar. We fell in love at first sight and soon had you. But why don't you remember what Mommy looks like?" "I really want to know what Mommy looks like." Xiao Yi was very sad. He had never even seen his mommy's photo since he was young. Even when he dreamed of Mommy, he could not clearly see her face. Daddy was once in a car accident and forgot a lot of things. He also forgot your Mommy. Xiao Yi, don't be sad. Daddy promises that he will love Xiao Yi even more in the future. Make up for your Mommy's share, okay? Bailey Han saw his son cry sadly and felt worse than being stabbed by needles. Xiao Yi choked and said, "Okay." Awesome novel, Xinwu 799. Chapter 159. Xia Dong brought Xiao Guai to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor said that Xiao Guai's condition was still good and there was no further deterioration. This meant that the chemotherapy had temporarily controlled her condition. At the same time, he suggested that Xia Dong send the child to the hospital as soon as possible for easier treatment. Xia Dong planned to send Xiao Guai to the hospital for hospitalization after Mika Keto returned to China. The side effects of the chemotherapy on Xiao Guai were starting to show. When Xia Dong was combing her hair in the morning, she would secretly pinch a handful of hair that had fallen out behind her back and quietly throw it into the bottom of the trash can. After every chemotherapy session, Xiao Guai would be very tired. From the time she left the hospital until she got into the car, Xia Dong would always carry her and put her in the front passenger seat. She would fall asleep very quickly. Every time this happened, Xia Dong would feel very upset. She wished she could bear all the pain on behalf of her daughter. Xiao Guai fell asleep again. Her little face was abnormally pale, without a trace of blood. While waiting for the traffic light to turn green, Xia Dong took out a clean blanket and covered her body. After Xia Dong turned around, she inadvertently saw the car beside her. The driver was Lin Shihao. Beside him was a beautiful woman. The woman smiled and said something to him. Lin Shihao also smiled. Then the woman took a tissue and wiped his forehead. Her movements were natural and practiced. Lin Shihao calmly accepted it. Xia Dong frowned. They seemed to be very close. After returning home, she still could not forget that scene. After thinking for a long time, she decided to give Yi Siki a call. Yi Zi, I went for a prenatal checkup today and realized that old Lin was not around. Didn't he go to work today? Yi Siki laughed. Yeah, you should have called him in advance. He went to a conference today. Just him alone? No, I heard from him that he went with a colleague. Xia Dong replied with an "oh" and teased, could it be a woman? Yi Siki smiled. He was with a female doctor. Old Lin said that she was his junior and had just returned from America not long ago. The director even specially instructed him to bring her out to see the world. Why is the dean involved again? You don't understand. Elder Lin's junior is the dean's daughter. Xia Dong said half-jokingly, the dean's daughter is beautiful and capable. Aren't you worried that she will fall for your husband? Yi Siki scoffed at her words. Old Lin tells me everything. Do you think I need to worry? Xia Dong smiled. I'm not asking you to suspect him. I just want you to be more careful. Even if Lin Shihao doesn't have any bad intentions, there are so many beautiful doctors in the obstetrics and gynecology department. Who knows if they will have any ideas? Don't worry. I have absolute faith in our old Lin. How many men like him can you find who would still give me a gift on Qing Festival after 7 years of marriage? Xia Dong smiled bitterly. You're right. I can't find many like that. Men these days would coax you nicely when they were dating, but after they married you, they would become a completely different person. Then that's it. Don't worry about us. You should think more about yourself. Yi Siki started to talk about the usual. Didn't Bailey Han treat you to a meal 2 days ago? How was it? Xia Dong rubbed her eyebrows. What do you mean by how was it? It was just like that. He didn't take the opportunity to confess? Can we not talk about this anymore? Xia Dong scratched the sofa. Yi Siki snorted. You didn't directly reject my question, so that means he confessed. Hurry up and tell me the truth. Xia Dong face-bombed. It's a loss for this industry if you don't become a paparazzi. Don't change the topic. Hurry up and tell me the truth. If you resist, you'll be severely punished. If you confess, you'll be lenient. All right. Xia Dong scratched her head. Actually, it wasn't really a confession. And it wasn't on the day he treated me to a meal. Girl, can you please get to the point? Why are you dawdling? Xia Dong was speechless. My dear lady, you're really hard to please. All right, I'll tell you. When he was discharged from the hospital, tell me. Although she was just repeating Bailey Han's words, Xia Dong's face still started to burn. Yi Siki clicked her tongue and sighed. I told you that he was interested in you, but you didn't believe me. With your EQ, if you were really in a relationship, you'd be so anxious. If you like him, you like him. Why do you have to beat around the bush? She really thought too highly of Bailey Han. Xia Dong was speechless. Yi Siki sighed. Actually, I've always thought highly of Mika Keto. Although he looks cold, he treats you and the children quite well. But the problem is that his profession is too dangerous. If you were to be with him, you'd be in a lot of danger. Comparing him to you, Bailey Han's advantages are obvious. Yi Siki didn't say anything else. She planned to change it to matchmaking Bailey Han and Xia Dong in the future. Xia Dong felt that she had failed. She had called Yisiki to remind her to be more careful, but she didn't expect her relationship problems to be exposed. She quickly changed the topic. Your old Lin will be in the hospital tomorrow, right? I'll go for a prenatal checkup tomorrow. Yisiki's long-winded speech was stopped by her. Although she didn't want to give up, she was afraid that if she said too much, Yisiki would be annoyed. So, she followed her lead and said, yes, old Lin will go to the hospital tomorrow. Xia Dong heard the ringtone and said, Yi Zi, I have another call coming in. I'll hang up first. Okay. Call me if you need anything. Xia Dong ended the call with Yisiki and answered Bailey Yun's call. Fox, what's the matter? Bailey Yun's voice was a little low. Xia, I want to meet you. Sure. You can decide the time and place. I know you have to take care of the children. I'll come to your place tonight. I'll call you when I arrive. Bailey Yun sounded a little off. Xia Dong was worried and asked a few more questions. He said that it was fine and that they would meet again tonight. Who would have thought that in the evening, it would start to drizzle? Xia Dong called Bailey Yun, but no one picked up. She walked to the window from time to time and looked out. She lived on the 5th floor and the window faced the neighborhood, so she could see everything clearly. After about half an hour, a Lamborghini slowly drove into the neighborhood. Xia Dong had already changed her clothes. She said a few words to the children and went downstairs with her phone and umbrella. Before she entered the elevator, she received a call from Bai Liyun. Xia, I'm at your place. Come down. Okay. Give me 2 minutes. I'm going into the elevator. She walked out of the door and saw him standing in the rain without an umbrella. The rain fell on him sporadically. She quickened her pace and walked over to him. She held the umbrella over his head and said, It's raining. Why didn't you wait in the car? His hair was already wet. His handsome face was also covered with rain. His charming fox eyes were slightly narrowed as he stared straight at her. What's wrong? Xia Dong felt uncomfortable being stared at by him. He smiled and chuckled. I'll take you somewhere. Okay. Xia Dong followed him into the car and handed him a tissue. Wipe your face. You're all wet. Bailey Yun took the tissue and wiped his face casually. The Lamborghini slowly drove out of the neighborhood. After driving for more than 10 minutes, it stopped on the road near the man-made lake. We're here. Bailey Yun suddenly leaned over. His handsome face was getting closer and closer to her. She grabbed the seat belt awkwardly. He chuckled. I'll help you unbuckle your seat belt. I can do it myself. Xia Dong quickly unbuckled her seat belt and got out of the car. Bailey Yun walked to her side and held her hand. Without looking at her, he said softly, The steps are slippery. Be careful. Xia Dong was too embarrassed to push his hand away. The man-made lake wasn't very big. There was a pavilion beside it. When Xia Dong got closer, she realized that there were dozens of lotus lanterns floating in the lake. All of the lotus lanterns were gathered in the shape of a heart. Although the rain wasn't heavy, there was wind. The wind blew the candles in the lotus lanterns until the flames flickered, but none of them went out. Did you light all these lanterns yourself? He nodded and asked with a chuckle, Do they look good? Yes, but why did you light so many lanterns? Xia Dong was still wondering why he was so wet when the rain wasn't heavy. It turned out that he had lit the lanterns in the rain earlier. Bailey Yun's face twitched uncontrollably. He reached out and knocked on her forehead. I beg of you. Can't you be a little more romantic? Oh. Xia Dong rubbed her forehead innocently. It's not that I'm not romantic. It's just that I find it strange. It's not like today is a special day. By the lake, the night was cold. In the lake, the candlelight flickered and the waves were beautiful. They stood in the pavilion, quietly looking at the lake and the candlelight. He suddenly reached out his arm and turned her shoulder around. His eyes looked at her seriously, as if he wanted to see into her heart. She was a little flustered. Bailey Yun held her shoulders with a serious expression. Xia Dong, I love you. He thought about what Xiao Tianxing said for a long time. In the end, he decided to stake everything on one throw to let her understand his feelings. I love you. This was the first time someone had confessed to her in such a clear and straightforward manner, but she was still extremely flustered. Fox, don't joke around. His fingers gripped her shoulders so tightly that they hurt. His voice was serious and urgent. I'm not joking. Xia Dong, I've liked you for 5 years. Her heart trembled. She bit her lip and didn't dare to look into his eyes. He waited anxiously for her to speak. After a long time, Xia Dong finally said the 3 words that he didn't want to hear the most. I'm sorry. His heart, which had been in his throat, suddenly fell to the bottom of the valley and shattered into pieces. After a long time, he found his voice again. It was bitter and hoarse. Why? Xia Dong smiled bitterly. Look, I already have 2 children, and I'm pregnant with a 3rd. You, on the other hand, are handsome, rich, and charming. We're not compatible at all. The light in his eyes disappeared. He stared at her flat stomach in disbelief. Why, you're pregnant? Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.